Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural Disability Advisory Committee meeting. I recognize that we have a quorum, and I call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock. My name is Andrew Phillips. I am serving as your chair for this Disability Advisory Committee, or DAC. I work for the National Association of the Deaf, and it is my pleasure to introduce a few key FCC folks who have been a huge part of making this committee meeting happen. First, I want to introduce Elaine Gardner. She is our Designated Federal Officer, DFO, for the DAC. Elaine?
Hi, thanks. Thank you all for coming here today. I want to welcome you to the FCC. Some of you have been here many, many times, but for some of you, this is your first visit, and I wanted you to know how much we Should I use this one? How much we... This one? Yeah. Okay. Again, I'm Elaine Gardner, and I want to welcome you to the FCC. Some of you, it's your first time you've been here today, and some of you have been here many, many times, but I want to welcome all of you, and I want to thank you so much for your participation and what will be your hard work on the Disability Advisory Committee. We're very, very happy to have you here today and want to wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about the DAC and the role of the DAC and advisory committees in a few minutes. But right now, I want to hand this over to Karen Peltz-Strauss, who would also like to welcome you. Chris
Monteith. Chris Monteith will go first, and Chris Monteith is the Chief of the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau.
Good morning. Today is a great day. Today is a great day because it's the first day of the first meeting of the newly created Disability Advisory Committee. I know I speak for the many members of the FCC throughout the Commission that work on disability access and disability rights issues when I say that today is a great day and we could not be more excited about this committee and the road ahead. I also want to start with thanks. Thanks first to Chairman Tom Wheeler. Chairman Wheeler is so committed to these issues. His vision is great. His support is fantastic, and I thank him for his role in establishing this advisory committee. He wanted so badly, and I know Karen knows this and Greg knows this, to be here today to welcome you all to the FCC and to give you his personal thanks for your willingness to serve. Unfortunately, he was called to Congress. He has a hearing this morning at 10 a.m., and he just could not make it. So he sends his regrets. He will be here for the second meeting of this advisory committee. Then I want to thank Karen Peltz-Strauss and Greg Leibach and the staff of the Disability Rights Office for their commitment and dedication. As you may know, we have a pretty lean team in the Disability Rights Office. But these folks are so hardworking and so dedicated, and they more than get the job done. I want to thank Elaine, your first designated federal officer, and Susie Rosen-Singletary, your alternate designated federal officer. And thanks to Caitlin Vogus and Rosaline Crawford, Cheryl King, and Susie for their willingness to serve as facilitators for your subcommittees. All of these folks are extremely talented, and you are in great hands with them as your FCC staff. And finally, and most importantly, thank you to all of you for your interest, for lending your time and your experience and your expertise. And thank you to Andrew for his willingness to serve as your first chair. You are a remarkable group. Karen and I were just discussing the number of applications we received from folks wanting to serve on this committee. It's really unprecedented. You are a remarkable group. You represent the brightest minds on issues concerning communications access by people with disabilities. And collectively, you have hundreds of years of experience on matters relating to the provision of communications access by people with disabilities. Your membership is diverse. You represent consumers, industry, researchers, academia, trade associations, state and federal government agencies. You come from 19 states and territories and from as far away as American Samoa. In sum, your breadth of knowledge is truly extraordinary. We are so lucky to have you serving on this Federal Advisory Committee and to reap the benefits of your expertise. So I will end where I started by saying it's a great day, and thank you for being here. I'll turn it over to Karen now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Well, I couldn't say it better myself. It's truly an historic occasion. It's amazing to be here, to see all of you. We've done this dance before. We're going to do it again. And as Chris says, we're so lucky to be under this Chairman Tom Wheeler, who has already shown his dedication to disability issues, as has the whole commission. Over the last several years, we have accomplished so much in the area of access for people with disabilities, from requiring captioning on television shows that are streamed via the internet, via internet protocol, to requiring or reinstating video description rules, to requiring text to 911, emergency access on television, access to advanced communication services and mobile phones, creating a national program for people who are deafblind and low income to get communications equipment. The list goes on, and as the saying goes, we have just begun to fight, so to speak. We are asking for all of you to help us continue these efforts. We need your guidance. We need your expertise to tell us what we need to do next. I just want to mention as well that this committee has been established in part in honor of the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act and the 5th anniversary of the 21st Century Communications and Video Accessibility Act, commonly known as the CVAA, whose anniversary is in October and the ADA's anniversary is in July. So this is 2015 is a very, very special year, and it makes the startup of this committee even more special. I've talked to several of you this morning already, and I wanted to share with you some of the interests that we have in the work that you're going to be doing. We do not want this committee, as much as we all really enjoy each other's company, and it's great to see all of you, we do not want this to be just a social occasion. You will have plenty of time to socialize before, middle, and during, and after meetings, but we want you to work, and we want you to work hard, and we want specific recommendations. We do not want you to meet and say, at the end of 2 years, we're going to hand you some recommendations for you to take. We want recommendations fast. This chairman wants to get things done. He has told us that he set up this committee. He agreed to set up this committee because he wants products. He wants results. So we're calling on you to give us results. If you need to conduct surveys, then arrange them. We've done this before. We've done it quickly. We will provide the support for you. But we're hoping that we get some things from you within, for example, the first 6 months. And then when you finish that set of recommendations or reports or surveys, you'll move on to something else. So we really want you to have very, very definite goals, timelines, and give us what you sow and what you reap, and we will then work with you to turn it into rules or turn it into policies and work with you to make sure that it's implemented. So, I can't emphasize that enough. This is not just for show. We want products. I think that Chris has pretty much said everything else. I'm just going to thank a few more people and also just comment again at the numbers. This was not an easy job choosing all of you. It is hard to turn down people that are extremely qualified. We had, I think, approximately 122 people apply. Probably unprecedented I'm not positive, but probably unprecedented in the history of advisory committees. And what it shows is the enormous interest in these issues. No surprise to us, by the way. We kind of expected it, but to see it actually happen was very gratifying. And to see your dedication and your willingness to take time out of your schedules. We know you're not getting paid for this. So we so appreciate all your efforts and all your resources and your commitment to these issues. I'm just going to end by thanking a few additional people. We were talking about setting this up. One of the people from the commission meeting room said, every time you do one of these meetings, it's like planning a wedding. And Elaine and I were just talking, and Elaine said, yep, it's everything but hiring the orchestra. Maybe we'll have that next time. But the fact is that an enormous amount of work goes into something like this. And when we all come and go through it, it seems like it's seamless. But there's so many people behind the scenes. And one of the divisions in the agency is our outreach division within our Consumer Bureau that puts so much work into this. And I want to thank Chantel, Virgil, Anthony Butler, Sherry Dawson, Diana Coho, and Denise Jones, amongst those people. And if I've forgotten anybody, please let me know, and I will thank you the next time around, because without your help, we could not do this. Similarly, we have several people here from the Disability Rights Office that have helped coordinate this. Chris mentioned a few. I'm going to skip over those and just go to the rest. Robert McDonald, Susan Kimmel, Judy Miller, Siobhan Morris, and Roger Holberg. Again, if I have forgotten anybody, come to me. I want you to be recognized. This is the commission meeting room, which we affectionately call CMR. So if you hear CMR, that's commission meeting room. Jeff Redden, Steve Balderson, Richard Williams, and again, others. And I have to just say that you probably have noticed the literal army of interpreters around the room. And I want to thank Helen Chang and Gerard Williams, as well as all of the contract interpreters, well, especially Helen and Gerard. This is a humongous task that they put together. And I want to thank all of them, the sign language interpreters, as well as the individuals handling the real-time transcription remotely. So I think I have gotten everybody, and I will hand it back to Elaine and Andrew. And of course, thank Andrew and Elaine once again for the mountains of work that led to this day. And Greg, I think Greg is going to say a few words. Greg Leibach.
Yes, thank you to Chris and Karen, and I will turn it over to Greg to share a few words. Good morning, everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I am wearing my green tie this morning. I'm protecting myself against my 4 children who were looking forward to this day. Today is very special, very inspirational moment for all of us, and it is historic. Many of you may not realize, but this is history in the making. We are all here coming together, demonstrating that this commission means business. We intend to produce results. That is the goal. Before we were able to convince the chairman, I think it didn't really take any effort at all to convince this chairman. He is a very staunch supporter of disability access, but before we got his buy-in on this committee, we recognized that although we have accomplished a lot with a lot of our rules and regulations and different work on disability access, we were lacking something. We needed a permanent body to serve as a monitor for us, to keep up with the really rapid evolution of technology in today's world. We can never really rest here. Particularly in terms of communications technology, it's a constant effort to keep up. And so we needed someone to make sure that we are keeping up. And we all here share a common goal. which is simply to live in a truly accessible world. That is the goal of this body, and I want to congratulate all of you for being willing to come together and work on this mission with us. I also want to particularly point out, as Karen mentioned, and Chris also mentioned, that the Disability Rights Office, or DRO as we refer to it, is a very lean but mighty team. And I'm going to ask some of the DRO staff here, please stand if you're a DRO staffer so that we can make sure to recognize those of you who are here, who are not at the table. Thank you. We've got a few. Excellent. I want to applaud your efforts again. You may notice that it's very few are here, but those few represent a large amount of work in our office. So I want to thank everyone, and of course everyone else who has done the work here. Karen, who is brave enough to take the role of doing thank yous, because doing those thank yous, you run the risk of missing someone. But basically, I just want to thank everyone really from the bottom of my heart for being here today, for embarking on this work. I appreciate it, and I look forward to it. Excellent. Thank you, Greg. Susie Rosen-Singleton is our alternate designated federal officer. If you'd like to say a few words.
No, you can go ahead with the agenda.
Great. I would like to echo Chris, Karen, and Greg, and Elaine in thanking everyone for being here, all the FCC staff who've made this happen, particularly Chairman Wheeler and his office who pushed to make this happen. I also want to make sure to thank our food sponsor, CTIA, and Matt Gerst, who is here. We appreciate you keeping our stomachs full throughout the day as we're participating in the meeting, so thank you to CTIA. We also do not have enough food for everyone. We are limiting the food only to members of the full committee and subcommittee members, as well as FCC staff and our support staff who are here. We provided some breakfast foods this morning, and we have boxed lunches this afternoon. Elaine has a few logistics that she's going to cover before we get started with our agenda. And another thing, I think it's very important that we recognize we have people here with different communication needs serving on this committee. So the first thing, which I have already violated, but I did not introduce myself before speaking. So this is Andrew speaking. And before you speak as a member of the committee, we please make sure that you introduce your name. We have captioning for those who are deaf or hard of hearing. We have interpreters for those who are deaf or hard of hearing. We also have certified deaf interpreters for those who are deaf and blind or who are deaf and low vision. So it is important for us to make sure that we pause before we take a turn and ensure that you introduce yourself to give our interpreting team some transition time. I also know that some of our interpreters have asked that when the interpreters are switching, we can provide a few seconds to allow for that switch to take place. That way we don't have anyone missing information during those times. And with that, Elaine, do you have some logistical announcements to add?
Hi, this is Elaine Gardner again. First, I want to make sure that everybody realizes this is a public meeting, so we are right now not only open to the public here, but we are also web streaming this on www.fcc.gov/live. So if you ever want to go back and watch this again, you can watch it. It'll be archived right on the /live website. When you speak, please introduce yourself, as Andrew said, and raise your hand so that your microphone can be turned on. And please do use your mics, both here and then when you go to your subcommittee rooms, to make sure that those who are watching remotely can benefit from what you say. Let me know if there's anything you need. If there's accommodation that's not working well for you or anything else, please come to me and let me know, or come to any of the members of the FCC staff. In the afternoon, after our subcommittee meetings, we're going to have an opportunity for public comments. And for those of you who are watching remotely, I want you to know that you can email any public comments or questions you might have to livequestions@fcc.gov. When you email that, that's part of the public record, so know that your email will also be preserved as public record. Just basic logistics, I want you to know that if we need to exit, you will. There are 2 exit doors in the rear of the room, or in the front if you're facing my way. The bathrooms are, you exit through the right door, go down a hall, and turn to the left, and then they're on the left side. there are trash receptacles around the room, and I want to make sure, for the benefit of the CMR staff, that we try to be thoughtful in disposing of both our trash and our recyclables. There is Wi-Fi in this room and throughout this floor. The number, when you call up the Wi-Fi, the number is the PIN is FCC 23771, and that is available on brochures like I'm holding up, but also if you want to write it down, it's a good thing to have. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm going to turn it back to Andrew.
Great. Thank you, Elaine. This is Andrew speaking. Now we would like to give our members an opportunity to introduce themselves. And if you have an alternate who is here with you, it would be nice if we could have your alternate also introduce themselves. I think that we are going to start with Dr. Christian Vogler, if you wouldn't mind. Good morning. My name is Christian Vogler. Vogler. I work at Gallaudet University's Technology Access Program. And I am here not representing only Gallaudet University, but also as a representative of the funding backed by HHS, which is the Rehabilitation and Research Consortium for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, RERC, which has a broad focus on a number of different technologies intended to make access for deaf and hard of hearing people better. This is Andrew speaking. Yes, if I could also add, there are a number of different people here, so I want to ask that we limit our introductions to 1 minute. That was in the email with our agenda, but I think, Christian, you're definitely under 1 minute, so thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Good morning. My name is Carrie Cook. I am here as representative of National Black Deaf Advocates. I am committed during my time here to bring an intersectional focus and focusing on marginalized identities and making sure we have equitable access and equitable outcomes as well. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Gay Jones. I am the Communications Access Specialist at the Federal Emergency Management Agency, otherwise known as FEMA.
This is Andrew speaking. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I was just informed that we actually have plenty of time, so please feel free to take 2 to 3 minutes for your introduction.
This is Karen. Let me just get the mic on. Okay, so we actually have until 11 o'clock. So if you want to take just an extra minute to talk about the issues that are of particular interest to you, again, don't overdo it, but you can take an extra minute. We actually allowed for this time so that we can get to know each other. So if you want to backtrack a little bit, you can feel free to do so.
This is Christian, so then I guess we're back to me. Okay, again, Christian Vogler speaking. I'm happy to elaborate a little bit more about the type of work that I do. I've worked with a number of consumer advocacy organizations for a long time, NAD, TDI et al. Specifically, my interests on the committee are for relay services, particularly how we are transitioning to next generation internet-based communication technologies and how that's going to impact our relay service, new technologies to make relay service more widely accessible and usable. Another area of interest that I have is video programming, particularly closed captioning, as well as an important emphasis on not forgetting those who are deaf and have other disabilities. For example, those who are deafblind, and making video programming accessible to those communities. And further, how to improve access for IP-based closed captioning. And for the RERC work that I've done, the Research and Rehab Education Center, I want to express an interest in the next generation connection between hearing devices and other forms of technology. Right now, telecoil is quickly becoming an outdated technology. It works well, but we are also looking forward to the next generation of that type of connective technology for hearing devices.
All right, I'm glad I have a little bit more time. My name again is Carrie Clark. I'm here with National Black Deaf Advocates. National Black Deaf Advocates is an organization that's over 30 years old. We are the leading voice for Black, Deaf, African Americans, and hard of hearing in the United States. We focus predominantly on the deaf and hard of hearing population, but we also work with parents of children who are deaf and hard of hearing, as well as coders and their unique experiences. One thing that we're really proud of is the various programs and missions that we have for different populations. So, for example, we have the Black Deaf Senior Citizens Program, the Collegiate Black Deaf Leadership Institute. We also have the YES program, which stands for the Youth Empowerment Summit, as well as Women's Empowerment program through our passion. So we're just really proud that we can be here and provide an extra voice. We're glad that we have a seat at the table, and we're going to make full use of that. So you'll be seeing me more often.
This is Gay Jones, and I think as a representative for FEMA, we have a lot of issues within FEMA that cross every area that we're talking about here, and be able to provide equal access to people with disabilities and all disabilities in our program, because we do provide a lot of services. My background is a lot with telecommunications. I've been involved in it, so I've been able to bring that to FEMA, and being able to work with this group would help everyone benefit from us, as well as we be able to provide information for people to understand what we do and improve our services.
Talofa from American Samoa. My name is Tafai Mamau Tua Tupuola, Tafa for short. It's a great pleasure to be here this morning and representing the U.S. territory. For those of you who don't know where American Samoa is, we are the only U.S. territory south of the equator. It may sound great, but there are a lot of barriers that we face as far as communication. In 2005, we had lost all communication signals for about 2 days. Fortunately, we didn't experience any natural disaster during that time period. We couldn't call in, couldn't call out, couldn't even get on the internet. We also experienced a lot of difficulties in accessing 800 numbers. So this becomes a big problem in accessing relay service. If you call an 800 number, even though we have a U.S. dialing code, you have to pay international rates. And to me, I find that this is a problem for many people with disabilities who's trying to access an 800 number, that they get penalized to pay international rates, even though we're a U.S. territory. Another problem we face is also the 911 system that does not tend to receive any text messages. And during time of emergency, data tends to work more, is more stable for a territory than using a landline. So that's about it from American Samoa, and great to be here.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jeff Kramer, representing Verizon. I've been engaged in accessibility issues essentially since the passage of the Telecom Act in '96. Currently with Verizon, and before that with AARP. I've had the privilege of working with a lot of people in this room today, and I'm really looking forward to continuing that. As Verizon's representative on this committee, what I'm really hoping is, because Verizon's been active in accessibility issues for a long time as well, and we have a wide array of issues that I know all of you care about. So I'm really looking forward to exchanging ideas and finding how we can forward recommendations to the Commission to make all of our lives a little bit better. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Everett Bacon. I'm representing the National Federation of the Blind. I live in the state of Utah, and I also work for the Division of Services for the Blind in the state of Utah. I'm over field services, technology services, employment services. I'm pretty passionate about many different things related to blindness issues. We were instrumental in partnering with other groups, the Utah Council of the Blind, in bringing descriptive audio to the state of Utah. It wasn't there when I moved to Utah in 2004. Not one theater had it in the entire state, and we were able to partner together and bring that, and now every theater has that in the state of Utah. And then I was also instrumental in this past year. The state of Utah has never addressed accessibility in state government, and we just passed a bill that we're waiting for the governor to sign that requires accessibility in state government be considered before any new program, new software, new website is rolled out for state employees and for the public. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Eric Bridges, and I'm the Director of External Relations and Policy with the American Council of the Blind, and I'm happy to be a part of this committee. I have been active on the behalf of ACB with the FCC for many years. I have sat on the Consumer Advisory Committee. I feel like I've been around here an awful lot. ACB was one of a core group of disability organizations that actively advocated and championed the passage of the 21st Century Communications and Video Accessibility Act. And with that, our members have a keen interest in all things technology, because we literally cannot go throughout the course of our day without interfacing with technology in some fashion. Specifically, my interest in this committee lends itself more toward video programming and the ability for individuals who are blind or visually impaired to interface with video programming products, be it cable or satellite TV, the TVs themselves, as well as other platforms where content can be viewed. In addition, and to go along with that, ACB has been a staunch advocate through the years for video description and the increased amount of video described content, not only in movie theaters, but also on television. And so trying to figure out through the discussions on this committee how to deliver video description in an effective manner, whether it is through satellite or cable, but then in addition, if at all possible, to figure out how to deliver video described content on other platforms.
Good morning. My name is Susan Mazrui. I work for AT&T. At AT&T, we've been interested in disability access for a number of decades now. But the world is changing, and we firmly believe that for full inclusion, we need accessible ICT. Everywhere you work, play, live, involved in the community, you need to have access to this technology. And we believe that a lot is being done today, that we need to work together to get the word out on what's being done and how we can work together to encourage adoption, advanced communications, accessibility for everyone.
I am Hannah Thompson. I am from Chicago. I graduated from Elmhurst College in 2012. I was an intern for Easter Seals DuPage and the Fox Valley region. Then, I interned at Trevor North Business Association and got hired as their social media consultant. On the side, I am a motivational speaker. I also sit on the junior board for Over the Rainbow, which is a not-for-profit organization that builds barrier-free, accessible housing. I am so humbled and excited to serve the FCC and be a part of something bigger than myself.
I'm Abe Raffy. I'm representing the ARC, For those who don't know, the ARC is the largest organization in the United States serving people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We have about 650 chapters around the country with 120,000 staff. We do about $4 billion worth of business every year. And we're interested in this space because technology is increasingly an important thing to our population, as everyone has said. If you think about the 80s and the 90s, technology required a high level of literacy, ability to navigate complex menus, think abstractly. Now we have touch screens, we have Siri, we have text-to-speech, we have facial recognition. So our staff are seeing an explosion in the adoption of technology among the people we serve, especially folks coming out of school who are given tablets and other devices as part of their right to an education. So we're going to bring that voice to the table, especially interested in advanced communication services. Work around making browsers and mobile phones more accessible is particularly interesting, but we'll see how it goes as we work together. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Lee Knife. I'm the executive director of the Digital Media Association, which is a nonprofit trade organization excuse me, here in Washington. We represent consumer-facing digital media companies, the likes of which are Apple's iTunes, Google, YouTube, etc. Our interest here is because many of my member companies will be serving up the type of media that will be involved in the regulations that we'll be talking about here. Indeed, some of them will be making some of the devices that will render that media, and some of them will actually help develop some of the technologies that we'll be talking about. I was here previously as part of the VPAC that came out of the CVAA, and I look forward to continuing that type of work here with this committee. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jim Tobias of Inclusive Technologies. Very happy and humble and excited to be here with all of the talent and experience and motivation and creativity here in the room. So I'm ready for a wild ride. Although I get excited by technology and even laws and regulations, I would have to say that I'm more concerned with what I see as a lack of uptake of the wonderful accessibility that's already available in the ICT marketplace. You know, we're only reaching 5 or 10% of the people who can benefit from some of the incredible things that are out there. So anything that we can do here to encourage, first, I think, a deeper understanding of those consumer behavior issues and market research issues, and then what we can recommend to the Commission to take on as far as policy changes and programmatic innovations. That's an area that I want to focus on, and I think we've already begun that discussion. I look forward to us developing it further.
Good morning. This is Mohammed Yusuf. I'm representing U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Highways Administration. My interest is in accessible transportation and seeing how we connect travelers with disabilities with new emerging technology and technology solutions. Up at the U.S. Department of Transportation, we are doing research in connected vehicles and automated vehicles, and very soon to be Internet of Things and connected cities. I want to learn from this committee and the members to how to better extend connectivity for travelers with disabilities in the new space.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Tim Cregan from the Access Board. I'm here with my colleague Bruce Bailey, who's sitting in the back. We're here. We're very happy to be here with members of the committee, many of whom we have worked with on advisory committees and many of whom have been on our advisory committees. So we're very happy to return the favor. We're particularly interested in the communications issues and the developing technology for communication over the internet, customer premises equipment, and real-time text. We look forward to working together, and we look forward to a very successful 2 years. Thank you. My colleague Bruce would like to throw in a few words.
Well, I'll just take advantage of your invitation to the alternates to say hello and wave their shiny faces. Hi, thanks very much. I want to say that I'm really wondering, the next hour after this, how Andrew, how you divided up the four subcommittees, because I just see so much overlap between the real-time text and the emergency services and the advanced communication services. So I think that's very hard to draw those bright lines. I'm looking forward to that part in particular. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Pody. As my nameplate suggests, I'm here as an alternate for Diane Burstein today from the National Cable and Telecommunications Association. And Diane sends her regards. She was disappointed she couldn't join us for this beginning launch of the committee. So NCTA has been involved for many years on accessibility issues. We're primarily interested in issues related to video, voice, and broadband, as we represent cable operators and cable programming networks primarily. And I've been an active member of the CAC for the past 2 iterations, and I'm excited to participate, and NCTA is excited to participate in this committee.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James Forstall. I'm the director with the Florida Telecommunications Relay Incorporated. And my alternate here is Sabrina Fields with the state of Maryland. We represent the Telecommunications Equipment Distribution Program Association, which is made up of 36 states throughout the country. Although all 36 of us have a program, equipment distribution program, that we provide equipment to individuals who may be deaf, hard of hearing, speech impaired, or deafblind to access the telecommunications system. We all do operate individually and have unique procedures, or we operate differently. However, the reason we're here is to make sure to see how we can work together with the service provider. As we all know, technology changes rapidly, and sometimes the equipment that we distribute is not compatible, so we would more than happy to work with the service provider to make sure that the equipment that we do provide is compatible.
Good morning. I'm Ron Bibler, and for the benefit of those who don't know me, I'm profoundly deaf. And for the benefit of those who can hear me, my accent is giving me away, and you want to know where I'm from. And so I'm from Montana. And many people think Montana is a part of Canada. And other people think Montana is a third world country, but neither is true. Okay? And we have a good roster here today. There's a lot of CEOs, vice presidents, executive directors, and I'm just a consumer. And so as a consumer, I'm actually representing the largest group of people here. And so we need to remember that. Okay? I like to think when I saw the public notice for the DAC that I thought, that's an interesting concept. I'm going to apply for it. And I sent in a one-page letter, and I described myself as a foot soldier on the front line of the battlefield, which is true. I'm stuck in the crossfire, and there is a battle going on out there. And so when you hear the term boots on the ground, that refers to me. Okay, boots on the ground. And so Karen wanted to know what was important to the consumers. And you can't make a long story short. We will be hearing soon what is important to consumers. But we all know that action and rules, they begin with good intentions. Okay? Well, as a consumer, I suffer the consequences of good intentions. And so one of those, for instance, is we've got new captions now, new and improved captions with colors and sizes and fonts. The unintended consequence is you need to be a rocket scientist to figure out how to use them. And the same thing is true of many things of video programming and relay. But I look forward to working with you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very honored to be here. This is Richard Ray speaking. I started working with the city of Los Angeles in 1985. That was under Tom Riley, our mayor at that time. And over the years, I have seen the evolution, and we actually have built a Department on Disability. I was very involved with the 911 services when they were first established citywide to provide access to deaf people, who deaf or deafblind individuals or people with speech disabilities, to enable them to access emergency services. And of course, times have changed. At the same time, I've been working on Metropolitan Transportation Authority. I'm also working with a committee called SAFE, Services. It's for emergency services on the highway administration for a TTY system. So it's an emergency call boxes on the highway so that people who are deaf and hard of hearing have access to emergency services on the road. Later, I got involved with National Emergency NENA as a co-chair of the Accessibility Committee. And Donna Platt, the co-chair, co-director, we worked on a variety of projects. And again, it's all about emergency services and making them accessible to all people with disabilities. So I've been involved with the emergency access here at the FCC Emergency Access Committee, which was a wonderful experience to be part of that advisory committee. And now I'm transitioning to, as we're talking about text messaging, text to 911. And there are really a lot of exciting projects to look forward to as we implement those kinds of services all around the United States. I'm very honored to work in the state of California, the 911 program, to push for the access for emergency services and for a variety of emergency services for people with disabilities. I'm really looking forward to what transpires, and I'm as well looking forward to working with everybody here on this council. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Alfred Sonnenstrahl. I'm the Vice President of DSA, which stands for the Deaf Seniors of America. And I am overwhelmed by today's transpiring. It's been 25 years in the making. I've worked with Karen for many, many years. We talked about the creation of a Disability Advisory Council here at the FCC, and I think at that time we thought it was an absurd, the FCC maybe thought it was an absurd idea, and yet here we are, 25 years later. And we've got people from all different walks of life, different communities being represented. So I'm feeling very emotional and overwhelmed, and I'm just really thrilled to be here. As the representative of Deaf Seniors of America, the National Association of the Deaf and TDI, Telecommunications for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Inc., and other organizations are advocating for the rights of people with hearing loss. And I'm now involved, as I said, with Deaf Seniors of America, realizing that we do actually have some different needs in that community, and they can be overlooked at times. So, for example, we have diminishing skills, and we may be overwhelmed with the changing of the technology that is quite complicated as we age and are not as current as we need to be with the service that are provided. So I am working here with you. My hope is to work with you so that that particular constituency has their needs met. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Larry Goldberg. I'm the Director of Accessible Media for Yahoo. It's great to be back home here at the FCC. I've lived here for many, many weeks, months, and years, and it's great to see so many old friends and colleagues here. I began my career in accessible media at WGBH, running the Caption Center, and eventually the Media Access Group have worked on captioning and description on all platforms, from television to movie theaters, online, DVDs, and everywhere else media appears. One of my greatest experiences after I founded the National Center for Accessible Media at WGBH was working with the FCC and finally co-chairing the Video Programming Accessibility Advisory Committee, which I think really turned out quite well and is working very well so far. Very proud of that, and I thought at that time that would be my graduation, but I didn't realize postdoc was available, so here I am again, now at Yahoo, where it was tremendous to join an organization that is so dedicated to its users and its users' needs. I came on board to work on making our media accessible, and captioning, of course, is where it starts. We have tens of thousands of video clips we put online every month. And I'd like to just mention that so much of what we carry is actually provided by other providers, so very interested in sharing. When media is captioned on other platforms, we would love to be able to make use of those. Seems like a waste otherwise. The other thing to mention, just last night we launched a TV program Community, which has quite a few fans around the world, rabid fans. It's a web-only program, but that was irrelevant to Yahoo. We captioned it. We intended to caption it from day one, and thousands of our clips are captioned every day, regardless of what the law requires or not. Very proud of that as well, and I'm very happy to bring some of that expertise right here to the FCC.
Hello, everyone. I'm Claude Stout. I'm the Executive Director with TDI, Telecommunications for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Inc. And as Sunny said, I'm a little overwhelmed, too, to be on this committee. I really commend the FCC for establishing this committee. I think it's one more reason why, and I know, you get tired of me saying this, and I say it often, but the FCC is still the best federal agency when it comes to promoting and making things happen for people in the disability community. It's a round of applause for the FCC. Thank you. TDI is very proud to say we have a 47-year record of working in collaboration with consumers who are filing with the FCC, for example. I think perhaps 2,000 in the last 20 years, 2,000 filings have been done, and we are really we pride ourselves on working with industry. Obviously, we can't work on disability access issues with only governmental support. We must have industry support and buy-in as well. And so we really appreciate all sides of the house, and we look forward to working with all of you. Let's move relay services to the next level. Let's talk about caption quality, whether it be on TV or the internet or other venues. Let's make sure that emergency communication services are available for those of us in the disability community. We want to define functional level in every way possible, whether it's emergency communication or VRS or captioning. We want to have equivalence across the board in all formats. And so I thank the FCC for giving us the opportunity to be here to collaborate in this formal venue. Thank you very much.
And I'm Lisa Hamlin. I am the Director of Public Policy at Hearing Loss Association of America. Hearing Loss Association of America is celebrating its 35th year. It's been around as long as some of the organizations around this table, but we're very proud to be here this long. We represent people who are have hearing loss across the spectrum, but typically use their voices and use whatever residual hearing they have or cochlear implants. So that means a lot of us are very dependent on technology, and many of us have a love-hate relationship with our technology, because when it works, it's wonderful and gives us the access we need. And when it doesn't work, like my neck loop here, using the telecoil that Dr. Vogler disparaged just a moment ago, and I just want to say, Dr. Vogler, that even though telecoils are old, being old doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. So we look to incorporate everything from analog to digital, and we are interested in a lot of the same things that the deaf community is: captioning, emergency access, IP access, getting into the internet, and I'm happy to hear what Larry had to say about Yahoo putting on everything captioned, even though it's a video, it's captioned and described maybe too. But whatever we have, we're really happy to see it go forward, because HLA was also one of the organizations that supported CVAA right from the get-go. We were right there to see that through. And we're happy to be here. I too am happy to see so many people around the table, and I didn't realize there were over 100 people or organizations that wanted to be part of this. That's why the table's so large. But I have to say also, when our subcommittee, now we worked on the CAC, the Consumer Advisory Committee, and our subcommittees were like 6 people. So when you asked me to be chair or co-chair of the video committee, I said, no problem, I can do that. Then we had 22 members, the last count may be different, and I thought, okay, 22 members, 3 priorities each. We have to deal with 66 priorities from this committee. Okay, we'll figure it out. We're already started. We're going to hit the ground running. But I'm happy to see, and I'm happy to see the interest, because when we asked just last Friday, lots of people immediately, everybody on the committee, almost everyone has had something to say. So, as I say, happy to be here, happy to work with you all, and I think we're going to have some good things to provide to the FCC staff, who I thank you all for your support, and up to the 8th floor as well.
My name is Paul Michaelis. I am with Avaya in Denver, Colorado. By way of background, I have been involved with accessibility engineering now for over 45 years, going back to when I was working with Marines who had been wounded in Vietnam. Academically, my PhD is from Johns Hopkins in Human Factors Engineering, Biomedical Engineering subspecialty. I am the developer or inventor of all of Avaya's accessibility adjuncts. I presently have 93 U.S. patents and 34 foreign patents. My passion, my motivation for being here, I'm sure all of you are aware of this, but the unemployment and underemployment rate among people with disabilities is just unconscionably high. Avaya is a manufacturer of enterprise communication systems, so we make the communication systems that would go into offices or federal agencies. We also make the 911 emergency response systems. What I am really hoping to do as part of this committee, and by the way, in the past I've been a member of the EAAC and also the TITAC committees, but what I'm really very, very anxious to achieve here is to try to improve employment possibilities, employment prospects for people with disabilities. I believe we can do that by providing accessible communication systems, in particular providing systems at little or no additional cost beyond what an employer might have to pay to accommodate somebody without a disability. Along those lines, just so you know, everything I have built for Avaya in support of accessibility, we provide for free.
My name is Joshua Pila. I'm the General Counsel for Meredith Corporation's Local Media Group, which is our TV station group, covers 11% of the U.S. I'm here today as a representative of the National Association of Broadcasters. And on a personal note, I'm hard of hearing. My father, my sisters, and my young sons all wear hearing aids. And so as part of being here at the National Association of Broadcasters, I'm here to talk about captioning, emergency accessibility, video description. And on a personal note, I'm very excited to see some of the technology that my children will have the opportunity to use that maybe I didn't have the opportunity to use as I was growing up.
My name is Matt Gerst. I'm with CTIA, the Wireless Association. I'm also here with my colleague Lori Ellington, and we work for CTIA on issues related to accessibility. And I want to say thank you to the Commission for accepting our application to be part of the Disability Advisory Committee. We're very excited to be here. This is a priority for our industry. At CTIA alone, we have a website, accesswireless.org, where we host a lot of information about all of the incredible, accessible wireless products and services that our member companies offer, and our members run the gamut of the wireless ecosystem from wireless carriers, manufacturers, basically any company that might touch the wireless ecosystem, we call it. We've also instituted a accessibility outreach initiative where we work directly with consumer representative organizations. And I've been previously here at the FCC on the EAC and actually working with a lot of the folks in the room for a number of years on the CVAA, and I do want to acknowledge that this is the 5th year of the CVAA. That's pretty remarkable and incredible how much the FCC has taken on and addressed in that period of time. From our perspective, we've been dealing with and working on issues of communications, whether it's access to advanced communication services under the CVAA or telecommunications services. Hearing incompatibility has been a significant issue for our industry. And then personally, I've been working also on emergency communications directly related to the EAC, whether it was text 911, wireless emergency alerts, or basically any type of system that the community might need to get access to emergency communications. So we are certainly very appreciative of being a part of this effort and look forward to working with everyone on the committee. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Helena Mitchell, and I'm the Regions Researcher for the state of Georgia, and I'm also the Executive Director for the Center for Advanced Communications Policy. The thing that we are most proud of that we do is the Wireless Rehabilitation Engineering Research Center, which works to provide access for people with disabilities to all types of technology, particularly in the wireless and mobile space. We do that through the ability to do filings before the Commission and other regulatory bodies, so we do a lot in the regulatory area, policy area. The research, we make sure we always include the end users, and we work closely with industry in telling us what it is that we can make their products better and that we can do to work with the end consumer to let them know of the availability of these products and the insights that go with it. We also do a lot of development work, which includes creating prototypes, which again, we bring together groups that test the equipment and the things that we're trying to do. We have had very good success, because one of my passions is emergency communications, in receiving funding from the Department of Homeland Security, both the IPAWS office and also the Science and Technology Division, to work on new types of ways and methods to make sure that all alerts are accessible. Probably the one thing that I have had that many of you may not is I've been 20 years in the federal government, and so when everybody talks about the FCC and what they're doing right now, you have no idea how hard it is to do what they've done. So Karen and Chris and all of you, this is just an amazing thing that you've done, because in the 20 years that I was with government and we tried to do it, it never went anyplace. So congratulations and kudos to you.
I'm Eddie Martinez. I'm here on behalf of the Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind. I work with the deafblind community and several different deafblind consumer advocacy organizations. And I also provide training and work with the National Deafblind Program to provide equipment and resources to the deafblind community. We receive federal funding to enable us to distribute deafblind equipment and newer technology to the deafblind community at large. I'm also involved with work on emergency preparedness, as well as relay services, and how that type of equipment and technology can work with emergency services to provide the best accessibility to individuals who are in need of using 911 during emergencies. The Lighthouse works collaboratively to develop the best methods and technologies for communication access through text and mobile devices, and I'm very appreciative to be participating in this committee, and I look forward to working with all of you over the next couple of years.
Hello, I'm Brian Unesco, and I'm here representing the Helen Keller National Center. I work with deafblind individuals all over the United States with a variety of communication needs, varying from individuals who have low vision to fully blind. And we have several programs relating to technology to help provide services and communication needs. We're involved with several of the states and their work with the National Deafblind Equipment Distribution Program. And I travel around to states, and I've been able to see the variety of technologies that are needed by deafblind people. And unfortunately, the technology communication really falls short from the needs that they have in order to provide adequate access for people who are deafblind. So that's part of the reason why I'm pleased to be here and develop this collaborative kind of effort with all of you to make sure that access for deafblind individuals throughout the United States is provided. The population of deafblind people is changing and varied and growing with visual needs as well as communication needs. So telecommunication access is really important, and I'm pleased to be here to represent that role.
I'm Maggie Nygren. I'm the Executive Director of the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, AAIDD, here in Washington, D.C. Our members are researchers, clinicians, and practitioners who are committed to the full inclusion of people with intellectual and related developmental disabilities in their communities. And I'm very excited to be a part of this panel and promote the optimal cognitive accessibility of the work of this panel. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alexander Reynolds with the Consumer Electronics Association. CEA has over 2,000 member companies, all the way from Google down to installers of home audio. We put on the Consumer Electronics Show every year. You may have heard of it, out in Vegas. And we're very excited to be a part of this committee. I want to thank the FCC especially for inviting us to be here. We have previously been on the Consumer Advisory Committee where we did similar work, and I look forward to continuing that here on the DAC. Primarily, the issues that we're concerned with are closed captioning, advanced communication services, and user interfaces. We've been working since before the CVAA on these issues, and we look forward to continuing that work here.
Good morning. I'm Anne Marie Rohali from Microsoft. I'm here today representing the Telecommunications Industry Association. Like several other people in the room, I've had the pleasure of working with many of you in the past. I have also served on the Video Programming Accessibility Advisory Committee and worked on many CVAA issues, as well as working on various accessibility issues with Microsoft that has had a long commitment to making products and services accessible. I'm here today with my alternate, Avani Bell, who will like to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Avani Bell. I'm a manager of government affairs at the Telecommunications Industry Association, TIA is really happy to be a part of this effort. Accessibility has been a really important and priority issue for TIA for a number of years. We've previously co-chaired the EAC with Richard Ray, and we've been involved in the TITAC, and accessibility to communications technologies are important not only for TIA but also its members, including Microsoft, and we're just happy to be a part of this effort and look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Ledkowski, and I'm the Vice President of Accessibility and Multicultural within our technology and product organization at Comcast. It's a pleasure to be here and see many friends and colleagues, and again, thanks to the FCC staff for accepting our nomination to participate on the panel. Like many, have served on a prior CAC and served with several in the room on the TITAC committee. So at Comcast, I lead a team that's responsible for opening up our products and services to the widest possible audience. That includes people with disabilities. I sit within the technology and product organizations, so my peers own the set-top box interface. They own the communication products that we deploy, home management, really across the gamut of products and services that Comcast offers. So we sit at the center of a lot of these issues, whether they be closed captioning, video description, advanced communication services, and I really think we've made a lot of progress as a collective industry and community, but I think there's certainly a lot more work to do, and I look forward to getting into the technology details of what might we be able to do to move this into the next generation for accessibility solutions. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marcia Brooks. I'm with Perkins School for the Blind. I'm an alternate for my colleague Joanne Becker, who is sorry not to be able to join you today. She's looking forward to participating. Joanne has a lot of expertise in accessible technology. She also works on the National Deafblind Equipment Distribution Program, also known as iCan Connect. Everybody can take a deep breath of relief at never having to say that longer name again. iCan Connect will work. Joanne has a lot of experience in the iCan Connect program as well. She serves as a trainer for consumers in Massachusetts who are in the program, and she has also been a very effective advocate in her outreach activities for the program. My experience coming to this committee, I am working in a number of different states on the iCan Connect program. And we are very fortunate through our work with a number of different states in the program to be able to see the full spectrum of consumers in the program as well as service providers for the program. And for those who may not know, the iCan Connect program provides an assessment for folks who are in the program. They meet the criteria of having combined significant hearing and vision loss, and they meet low-income guidelines. And they receive an assessment, then they receive equipment that enhances their access to distance communications, and then the equipment is installed, and they are then trained in the use of the equipment. One of the things that's very important to Joanne and I on this committee is the unequal access to broadband in this country. Here we are talking about all of these advanced communications issues, and just last week we had a consumer who's been accepted into the program and is now entitled to an array of equipment to join the digital world the rest of us have, and we're looking at having to provide dial-up access. I can't even remember the last time I said dial-up. So that's a real big concern for us, not only as it relates to the iCan Connect program, but also for the provision of other services, relay services and emergency communication services that is under this committee's purview. we also share, now that we've seen some emails flying around before the meeting, concerns that have been raised, and I've heard this morning as well, about the usability and interoperability of relay services. And also, we're very interested in advancing the conversation about what quality control means for relay operators, whether this is something that is certified, the means by which quality is defined and then ensured. So on behalf of my colleague Joanne and I, we look forward to continuing these discussions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eva Lamana, Policy Associate at the American Association of People with Disabilities. I am here as an alternate to Henry Claypool, who many of you have worked with. He unfortunately could not be here today as planned, but I will do my best to represent the interests of AAPD on his behalf. AAPD is a cross-disability organization with a history of working on accessibility issues, and most recently innovation within the Internet of Things and the IP transition as it can best serve the interests of people with disabilities. We have a monthly technology forum that brings together representatives of technology industry and advocacy groups to discuss how technology can best create opportunities for people with disabilities, whether in education, employment, communication, and beyond. AAPD is, we're pleased to be here today with all of you, and thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brenda Kelly Fry. I am the director of Maryland Relay, but I am here representing the National Association for State Relay Administration. We represent the 50 states in providing relay services to individuals who are unable to use a standard telephone. And before I go on, I would like to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm all in my green, and I'm happy to be here on my religious holiday. I have to, normally I would be out with my girlfriend celebrating, but I'm here because I am dedicated to making sure that we provide services to people who are not able to use a standard telephone. I'm very honored to be chosen as out of 122 applicants to be here representing NASRA. It's great to see some familiar faces. I've served on the CAC in years gone by. I am a former officer and founding member, one of the founding members of the Telecommunications Equipment Distribution Program Association, TEDPA, which James Forstall and Sabrina Fields are representing on this committee. I am also on the ITRS Council, which oversees and makes recommendations to Roca Loeb, who makes recommendations to the FCC for funding for relay services. We make sure that services are provided via TTY. I know it sounds old. However, as Marcia brought up, there are many people who are not able to afford high-speed connectivity. Therefore, they're not able to participate in the VRS platform. And those are the people that pretty much typically are the ones who need VRS the most, but are unable to afford the services. We provide HCO, VCO, speech-to-speech services for deaf-blind individuals, and we are interested in making sure that interpreters are provided with proper working environments and so forth, to make sure that there's not burnout with the interpreters who are working in video relay service arena. We want to also make sure that services are provided to seniors and the youth. So we're going to be talking about providing services from little ones all the way up to seniors and making sure that they are not left out. No one is left out. So I guess we could call it no persons with communications difficulties are left out instead of no child left behind. This is what our goal is. I've been an advocate for life. I'd like to just also mention that the National Association for State Relay Administration was born out of a conference which was held in Anchorage, Alaska, when Al Sonnenstrahl was the executive director. Several people were up in Anchorage, Alaska, and they discussed the possibility of forming a group, and here we are. So happy anniversary to the ADA, happy anniversary to the CVAA, and let's roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Good morning. My name is Sam Yale. That's Joehl. I'm here representing SSB BART Group. We are a digital accessibility consulting firm. It is an honor and privilege for me to serve alongside you on the DAC. We've been around since 1997, providing digital accessibility consulting to government, to educational institutions, to corporations, to healthcare, financial industry, etc. We've been doing a lot of CVAA work recently. We've had all sorts of clients from cable and telecom companies to hardware manufacturers coming to us to assist them in complying with these CVAA regulations. And so we've been assisting them in a number of capacities. We provide testing and audits. We do hire users with disabilities. Between 40 and 50% of our employee base has some sort of disability. They've been coming to us to assist them with the record-keeping obligations, and we have methodologies and processes in place to assist them. And so it's going to be great to work on some of these issues, work on advocating for increase to communications and to video programming, the two areas that are of greatest interest to me as well, and to also work on implementing regulations that are actually achievable, that our clients can actually implement. And so I'm very excited to be here, to be working with all of you, and I look forward to our work ahead.
Thank you. My name is Tony Dunn, and I, like Brenda, feel like I've been an advocate for most of my life for equal access for people who have differences in communication needs. I started back in the 80s working for government and began with the equal access to 911 issues, and before moving to the private sector. Today I work for Intrado. We're a company that provides networking, routing services, and equipment to 911 centers, PSAPs, public safety answering points. And we are the first company that provided implemented text to 911. So we're very proud of that, and we continue to advocate for equal access to emergency communication services. I share a lot of interest that the others have expressed here in the group this morning. Particular interest of mine, of course, is emergency communications access. So I look forward to the various modes of provision of emergency information and access to receiving help. I look forward to working with this esteemed group and the people, and I thank the FCC for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Good morning. Hello. Good morning. This is Mark Reichert. I'm the Public Policy Director with the American Foundation for the Blind, and just looking at my Braille watch, it looks like we were so efficient that now I get until 11 o'clock, so you guys are lucky. That's the privilege of going last, I guess. I'm only teasing, Karen. Don't give me that look. I do indeed. In looking at I'm not sure this microphone is on, so I hope folks can hear. Okay, good. I want to make sure. Looking through the roster of this committee, it almost looks like the attendance list or the invitees list to the CVAA signing ceremony. When you look at it, the number of organizations that are around this table who participated in the CVAA work And yours truly was privileged to be a part of that. Learned an awful lot, tons more than I knew I didn't even know, being part of that process. And since we did a little bit of name dropping at the beginning, let's also recognize our colleagues, some of whom are here at the commission, but who wore different hats. Rosaline Crawford, for sure. Jennifer Simpson, who used to work at AAPD. Clearly, the CVAA effort was most assuredly a cross-disability effort, and our work at this DAC will continue to be that, if any of us have anything to say about it. And others, certainly the folks at National Association of the Deaf, as I say, through Rosaline Crawford, and my colleague Eric Bridges, and last but not least, Karen Strauss, and what a privilege to sit at her feet and occasionally get a swift kick. And it's excellent that you have her to goad this commission along, and I know that with the leadership, including this chairman, there's not a lot of goading that needs to happen, which is great. So thank you all so much for the work. Moving forward, let's since we're all here, let's plan another signing ceremony at the White House, shall we? And short of that, let's get to work on not only improving the regulatory scheme that's been put in place here at this commission, but frankly, being a bully pulpit. This is an advisory committee, and I have a lot to learn about what FACAs are and aren't, just like many of you. But one thing I'm certain of is that federal advisory committees are certainly groups that can be bully pulpits. And I think there are a couple of things that we're going to be working on in our area. My colleague Susan Mazrui and I are honored to have been named as subcommittee chairs for the communications group. And so we're going to be talking about what some of our priorities are. I can tell you that for my part, convergence is the word. Not only convergence in terms of technology, but convergence in terms of policy. I mean, convergence in the sense that what's the difference anymore between a television and a computer and a phone? And what do our current rules, or what should future rules say about the convergence of technologies? Where do we say that a device is, where do we draw the line between a communications device and a device that does something else that has really nothing to do with communications? And therefore, what are the accessibility obligations? So convergence in technology, but perhaps even more significantly, convergence in policy. I work for the American Foundation for the Blind and as their policy director, which means that basically I don't get to be an expert in anything at all. And so we play in a whole host of areas, whether it's special ed, healthcare, copyright, Medicare policy, you name it, we try to play in it. And make no mistake that any of the work that this commission, and certainly when you're talking about technology and accessibility, if you're not thinking also about things like copyright and intellectual property implications, then we're missing the boat. And it seems to me that we need to be giving a lot of serious thought to that. I will name them here because I think, frankly, this deserves to be named. Our colleagues at the Department of Health and Human Services have just released, not that long ago, a roadmap looking at health information technology, and they use buzzwords like interoperability and some other things, but there isn't a word about accessibility and people with disabilities in that report, and they should not be proud of that. And so one of the things that we need to be looking at, not only in terms of technology convergence, but is also the matter of policy convergence and how we can make sure that we're not just playing in this groovy, wonderful sandbox here with all of our friends at the FCC and not making sure that people across the government are and beyond, frankly, are understanding that technology access can't just be talked about here. We need to talk about it across the government, and hopefully we'll have a chance to do that. Thank you so much. See, I didn't go till 11. See? Look at that.
Thank you. This is Andrew speaking. It is wonderful to see such a mixed and diverse group of stakeholders here. We have individual consumers, trade associations, and industry represented here. We do have some time remaining, and I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to allow our subcommittee members who are not members of the full Disability Advisory Committee to perhaps take 1 minute each to tell us briefly about themselves. I'm not sure where a good location is. I think on my right over by where we see Cheryl King standing with the microphone. If those of you who are on subcommittees but not members of full DAC could go introduce yourselves where we have Cheryl.
Is this right spot? Okay. I didn't know I was introducing myself today, so I was sitting back here. I'm Scott Michael Robertson. I'm right now on the Communications and Video Programming subcommittees, and a lot of my interest is with the interest in the developmental disabilities community. I'm an autistic person, and I previously had worked for Senator Harkin at the Senate Help Committee last year as a Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. Public Policy Fellow. I'm a co-founder of the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. It's an organization run by autistic people, and I have a lot of other hats in both the disability community and actually the technology communications area too, as a person with 3 degrees in computer science related fields, and had done my dissertation on cyber and face-to-face bullying of autistic youth. So I have a mixed and varied background, and this is very, very exciting to be here and to be able to participate in this effort. I'm very, very excited and very happy to be, for the first time. I know all y'all had been a part of FCC efforts for a long time, and I'm relatively new to this, having been more connected to some areas in health and education previously. So this is really, I'm really, really excited to be here. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me the FCC for allowing me to participate as a subcommittee for this group.
Good morning. I'm Michael Maddox, and I work for Sorensen Communications, and I'm on the Relay and Equipment Distribution Subcommittee. And I'm thrilled to be able to participate. So many of the items that were identified as concerns to subcommittee members had to do with quality issues for relay services, and I'm very anxious to both contribute to ideas of solving issues and to learn to better understand the needs of the consumers, and very pleased to be able to be part of that committee. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Robert Pearson. I am the accessibility officer for an organization known as Accessible Media Inc., or AMI, and we are a Canadian organization, and I myself am a Canadian. We've been doing media accessibility in a variety of forms for quite some time, and I'm here to share some of those experiences. And I should say I'm on the video programming subcommittee. We have 3 broadcast services in Canada. One of them, 2 of them are a 24-hour, fully described, fully captioned, 24-hour-a-day TV networks, and then we have an additional services for those who are blind and deaf beyond that. So, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lydia Runnels. I am Vice President of Product and Development and IT for Z Video Relay Services. I'm very pleased to be a part of the subcommittee for video relay services and equipment distribution. I truly look forward to working with all of the individuals on the subcommittee and helping out with what I've heard this morning in regards to how technology can assist with accessibility going forward. My entire career has been in telecommunications and data communications. I was previously with Bell Laboratories and a data networking company. So truly look forward to working with all of you.
Good morning. I'm Heather York, and I am from VITAC. We're the country's largest provider of captioning to nationally broadcast programming, and I've been with the company and captioning in general for 23 years now. I've done everything from operations to technical support to scheduling, but I am most happy about the time I spent with some of you here on the CVAA and most recently the best practices for closed captioning rules. I'm really excited, like everyone said, about the CVAA. I remember 6 years ago being in a congressional office with Lisa Hamlin trying to convince somebody there would ever be captioning on an iPhone, and now it's here and it's just accepted. I hope the same will be the same for the new captioning mandates or captioning best practices, and that's what I'm most concerned about going forward, and I'm on the video programming subcommittee.
Good morning. I'm Julie Schaefer. Julie Ann Schaefer. I am representing RID, the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, and I will be representing RID on the subcommittee on relay services and equipment distribution. I am greatly looking forward to bringing some information from the VRS interpreters, who oftentimes are on the front lines of the provision of functional equivalence through video relay service. And for a long time, I think that the interpreter perspective has been missing from the decision-making process, so I'm truly looking forward to bringing I believe we have 1,600 members of our video interpreter member section, VIMS or VIMS. I'm looking forward to bringing their work, their lived experience, their education to the FCC, and I thank you for the invitation for RID to participate on the subcommittee. It's an honor.
Hi, my name is Adam Finkel. I'm with the National Court Reporters Association. We're the national organization that represents individuals who do closed captioning and then CART captioning as well. I'd like to thank the CART provider who I'm hoping is one of our members. But separately, I'm really honored, like everyone else has said, to be a part of this group to represent NCRA. And I know there's been a lot of activity certainly related to caption quality, and I think there's a lot more, there's a lot, we can go a lot further, and I'm really excited to see where this group's going to take it over the next few years.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Skidovan, and I work at the University of Delaware Center for Disability Studies, and I will represent AUCD on the Emergency Communications Committee. And every day I work with people with different functional and access needs on emergency preparedness, and each and every one has a unique need. People with cognitive disabilities, physical disabilities, and sensory disabilities all have unique needs, and I'm here in part to make sure that we think about all of those as we move forward in this discussion. And then also I work with emergency responders and professionals and service providers. And as we introduce new technology, I think we need to be careful that we train the responders and medical professionals in how to effectively communicate, use the technology to effectively communicate with the people we serve, and that also the people with disabilities know how to effectively communicate with the responders. And there's an actual language barrier there too with terminology and so forth. And then one final thing is I'm really interested in trying to see some standard system of 911 texting. In our state, one county has it, the next county doesn't, one town has it. So that's a real concern of mine. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Shireen Rawlinson Roberts, and I'm here from Caption First. I'm also late deafened. I have a cochlear implant. If I take it off, I hear nothing at all. So if my battery dies and I'm not responding, tap me. I'm here for a variety of reasons. I'm serving on two subcommittees. The first is the Relay and Equipment Distribution Program Subcommittee, and then the Video Production Committee. I'm excited about that. As a consumer, I've been involved with setting up relay services, and I remember opening the Missouri Relay Center back in Independence, Missouri, way back. I think Claude was there. My age is definitely showing. Some of you are so young, and I'm going, I used to be like that. Anyway, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm interested in seeing communication access, both in the relays. I use all forms of relay myself. I'm also really enthused about communication access for videos online and TV programming online. And I'm moving in 3 weeks. My husband is getting his dream come true. He's hearing, but he's getting a 50-inch flat screen TV, and I have no clue. I've experienced so many problems trying to get captioning to work on them that anyone who has suggestions, I would like to know, because I know, like somebody else said, you almost have to be a rocket scientist to get the captions to work. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Bahar, and I am here serving on the Video Programming Subcommittee and the Relay and Equipment Distribution Subcommittee. I have been involved with disability issues since I started working as a member of Congress for Jay Easley. And I remember there were a lot of different discussions that we had and agreements that we came to with Karen Pelt-Strauss before she was here staff at the FCC, but the issues remain the same. Those issues at the time were 10-digit numbering for video relay service users, and the first draft of what became the CVAA back in 2006. I remember my boss was working closely with Karen on that and eventually passed it in 2010, which was a wonderful and inspirational experience for me. Very proud to have been a part of that process. I'm here today representing CSD Communication Services for the Deaf. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Tan. I am the alternate representative to a small boutique telecom firm known as AT&T. I've been here in D.C. since 2000 working on issues in front of the FCC, starting with the Universal Service Fund, various telephone numbering items, and now most recently onto emergency services and network reliability. Thrilled to be a part of the DAC. I've supported many other advisory councils in the past, or are representatives on many other advisory councils on the past, such as the CISREC and the TAC and the EAC, etc. But this is my first, so I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Pam Holmes. I work at Ultratech Capital, where I've been for 28 years. I'm a consumer. I've worked in the nonprofit industry with NAD and TDI, and I'll never forget the breakfast we had in Seattle, Washington, the morning after Chairman Kennard signed the 255 legislation, and we did a toast to the chairman. And I mentioned that to encourage everyone to think outside the box in their work here. I've worked in the government sector on the U.S. Access Board and the National Council on Disability appointed by the President, and I've worked in the corporate sector, but most important, I've been a consumer, and a consumer who wants to see a difference. When we walk out this door, when we live our life daily, I want to see functional equivalence for everyone who just happens to have a disability. So I ask all of you as your goal, I love that Karen said this is a working committee. Let's raise the bar, and I'll be trying my best in the subcommittee for TRS and equipment.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Fletcher. I'm the Chief Architect with Avaya Public Safety Solutions. I'm the alternate for Dr. Michaelis, and I'm also on the Communications and Public Emergency Communications subcommittees. My experience in public safety and my experience in telecommunications, I think, brings a unique knowledge set to this committee. And I've heard the term functional equivalence quite a few times today. And when I look at the technology in our 911 networks and Baudo TTYs using that archaic 1960s technology and that being the only way that people with disabilities can communicate, I think it's an atrocity. So I'm privileged to be here to help correct that. Thanks very much.
Good morning. My name's Scott Kelly. I'm here representing LG Electronics, and I will be serving on the subcommittee on communication. And I'm also a fellow consumer, and I share the sentiment that was shared earlier that technology is really cool when it works. I usually say it's really cool on the off chance that it works, but being a member of a device manufacturer for the last 18 years has been a challenge in that area for everyone, really. And so I look forward to understanding how these devices are converging, another theme that was shared earlier, and how we can make these converging devices more accessible to all of us. Thank you.
I'm Dixie Ziegler. I'm with Hamilton Relay. It's good to see many of you. I've served with many of you on previous CAC boards, so it's good to be here with all of you today. I, too, want to thank the FCC for hosting and bringing this committee together. I think hosting is a bad word because I do think we're going to get to work and we're going to produce some things, and I look forward to being a part of that. I'll be a part of the Relay Committee and really appreciate some of the work that our committee has started. We've shared some topics and have had an opportunity to think a little bit about that, and I think it was Christian who said something about getting us out of our self-inflicted silos. And as a relay provider, I take that to heart, and I think there's a lot that is true about that statement, and I'm really excited about how we can work together and break down some of those silos and take advantage of technology in ways that maybe we haven't before. And so looking forward to being a part of that group and working together with all of you. Good to be here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dillard Deltz, and I am here from Nebraska. I have no fancy title. I have no fancy affiliation or company. I am simply a humble man here to represent people of Nebraska, and most of all, the small numbers of deaf and hard of hearing, the small towns all over the United States. I'm a member of the Nebraska Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. As a commissioner and chairperson, I just finished my term in 2014, and subsequent to that, I am here now to represent all of those who are born and raised in the small towns throughout the United States, including Nebraska. Thank you.
This is Andrew. Thank you all for the introductions from subcommittee members. We have a couple announcements, and then I'll turn the floor over to Elaine before we take a break. First of all, we'd like to remind folks that when you speak, raise your hand, because we are now going to be using table mics, and the AV people need to be able to turn the right mic on. Also, we want to let you know that we have some leftover food from breakfast, so if there's a member of the public who would like to eat, feel free. And with that, Elaine?
Hi. Hello again. Were there any, I know at least Chris Sukup, you're out there, and you're an alternate who hasn't been introduced. So if you want to stand up and just introduce yourself, and any other alternates who haven't been introduced yet? Oh, maybe he's not here. Oh, okay. Okay. Any other alternates who haven't been introduced?
I don't think he's here.
Okay. All right, great. I wanted to mention that there are a number of alternates who are participating remotely, and they will be participating this afternoon in their subcommittees, including Rebecca Ledoux from Speech Communications by telephone, Phil Hysong from Alternative Communication Services, Matt Ater from Freedom Scientific, and the folks from Sprint, Tommy Leung, who's a consumer, and Carl Richardson, another consumer. So I wanted to say their names because you'll be hearing their voices on the telephone this afternoon in your subcommittee meetings. Thank you.
This is Andrew. We are now going to take a break until 11 o'clock. And yes? Somebody would like to comment? Yes?
Keep raising your hand. Just keep your hand up.
Okay. This is Paul Michaelis at Avaya. I just wanted to comment quickly that I just received email from an Avaya colleague in England. I'll send you out the URL for this news article he just sent me, but the first paragraph says, Britain's communications watchdog has fined one-time national telco, British Telecom, £800,000 for failing to provide a revamped text-to-voice service for customers who have hearing and speech impairments.
Thank you, Paul, for sharing that. And somebody else had a comment, has their hand up? Yes? Thomas?
This is Tom with Comcast. I just also wanted to mention that Jerry Parkins will be my alternate on this committee as well, and will be joining remotely, and sends his regards, and looks forward to being back with friends and colleagues in the future. He was co-chaired the VPAC, one of the VPAC working groups.
Thank you, Tom. This is Andrew. And without further ado, we will take a break until 11 o'clock. Please return to your chairs by 11, and we will proceed with our morning.
Were you able to get the password working?
I didn't try.
Oh, I think because I had it in my hand. What now? Even my own.
Okay, this is Andrew speaking again. It is 11:04 now. I'm hoping everyone can please take their seats so we can get started immediately. Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is Andrew speaking. We are going to move forward with our agenda for this morning. Now I am thrilled to introduce Paula Silberthau. She is from the FCC's Office of General Counsel, or OGC. She's going to be speaking to us about the Federal Advisory Committee Act, giving us an overview. And she will also entertain some questions, I think. So, Paula, turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm just going to give a couple of highlights about the Advisory Committee Act, its purposes, and also just some procedural things, some areas where it's possible to trip up, make mistakes by accident. And I'll go through a couple things, but if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand and I'll try to answer them. The Advisory Committee Act governs the operation of most federal advisory committees. And there are a couple of guiding principles. One is openness in government. The other is to have diversity and balance in the membership and to be publicly accountable. While the goal is to achieve consensus so that you can give recommendations that are really helpful to the Commission, I always point out that doesn't mean that everyone has to agree on everything. Especially with the size of your group, I think that's probably impossible. And so there should be robust discussion, and there can be dissents to recommendations. Okay, so if you issue a report and a couple of you think that there's a different or better way of viewing things, that's fine. You know, you can express your views. The whole point here is no one is trying to drown out anyone else. With the full parent committees, as you know, there's timely public notice of the meetings, and people can attend in person. This agency tries to make attendance very easy. Sometimes we have webcasts. Sometimes we have telephonic transmissions and all sorts of other things that I don't understand. But it's all geared to making everything very open. All documents that are provided to the full commission and to the subgroups become part of the group's records. And I mention this because if you're working on something that you feel is confidential, you should make people aware of that at the outset. If there's some wonderful device in which you're seeking patent protection or something, but you want to discuss it or show diagrams to your working group or to the full agency. So it's really something that's commercially private. There are ways to protect that, and let Elaine know, and we could help you put out the paperwork to get confidentiality attached to that. Briefly, on the role of the committee chair and vice chair, the committee chairperson serves as a focal point for communications with you and works with Elaine as the designated federal officer for establishing your informal subcommittees or working groups. And your chair will conduct all the committee meetings and suggest agendas to Elaine as a designated federal officer. So if there are items that you want to go on the agenda, we really sort of need to stick to the agenda because it's noticed in advance, but get in touch with your chair or get in touch with Elaine. What we can't do is have everyone come and then someone stands up and says, oh, there's this other thing we really want to discuss, and maybe it hasn't been announced. It has nothing to do with what was already published. That's not a good idea. So try to stick to the agenda, and we'll work with you on including as many of your ideas as possible. Another important thing is that if you can't attend the meeting, you should let Elaine or the chairperson know, and then and tell them that you would be liking to send an alternate. And I think many of you already have alternates that have been cleared through our basic ethics process. If you haven't done that, it's a good idea. You shouldn't sort of wait till the last minute, the day before the meeting, to say, oops, I can't come. So if you have the alternate, everything is lined up, you can't be there, but the alternate can attend. It just makes things more orderly. And the same thing would be true for attendance at the working group meetings. As far as the working groups are to gather information. It's preparatory work. The goal is to develop plans, to draft reports, to generate ideas that are then voted on, usually within the working group, and then brought to the full committee. Now, working groups can, and practically always do, meet in private. And the reason for that is that a working group is not considered the same as all of you meeting in plenary session here. So working groups are not necessarily announced to the public. Your decisions as a working group, this is very important. You just don't send them over to the commission or to the commissioners. What makes your working group is that you're working for the full parent body, and so all of your ideas because they're done privately, need to be going to all of you here for a full debate, for deliberation. If the working group recommendations bypassed the full group and went straight to the commissioners, that would be making the working group function like the parent body, and that would be very bad if you've been having private meetings. So it's really important that you understand that the working groups gather the information, generate ideas, and then it comes for a full debate in public at one of your public sessions here. The other thing to be a little bit careful of with the working groups is that if members that they can either be totally open to the public or totally closed. Usually you have more flexibility if they're closed because you can do things more spontaneously or shift dates. You don't have to have call-in lines. You can do things but potentially through emails. You could do things through telephone conversations. You just have a lot of flexibility. However, the agenda for the working groups should always be approved through Elaine or anyone she designates. So the working group can come up with ideas for the agenda, but ultimately the agenda needs to be approved by the designated federal officer, and also someone from the FCC should be available to participate in all of the working group meetings. That's just really important because you're working with us, but you're working in a coordinated manner with us. The other point is that you need to be a little careful about the working group meetings because depending on how you're running it, for example, you might end up having, like if you were using instant messaging, something like that, that could be converted into a working group meeting if a quorum of the working group members were all doing IM at the same time. So it's not that you can't do that, you can, but then it is a meeting, and again, it should be coordinated. It should be announced in advance among yourselves, and it should be coordinated through Elaine as the designated federal officer. The other point I'd mention is that you can do preparatory work and you can do some of your own research in the working groups. You can't do things like surveys. A survey you could have an idea for a survey, and you could mention that to Elaine, and maybe a survey could be done by the FCC. A lot of groups want to do surveys, but that triggers the Paperwork Reduction Act. So you can't really, set up a phone bank and start calling 50 different agencies for their view on something. This is really supposedly based on your experience and your expertise, and I know there's a lot of that in this room. Let's see. One other thing that's come up occasionally is people by accident sort of going out and speaking for their working group or speaking for the full advisory committee, when really what you would supposedly do is have your own individual views. And let me just give you an example of something that happened. We had a working group where the chairman of the working group was very active in some particular area and, in fact, decided to do a blog. And the blog was really that person's well-reasoned individual opinions, but it was a think piece, and it was signed with the name of that person, chairman of whatever working group, X advisory committee. And so when that was published, everyone thought that's the opinion of the working group, and also it's the opinion and recommendation of the parent committee. In fact, it was an interesting opinion. It was a minority view. It was his view. And suddenly it looked as though the whole advisory committee was taking that view, and it looked as though the working group had voted on it. So this doesn't mean you can't express your own views. We welcome everyone to do that. But if you're thinking about publishing something, you might want to give us a heads up in advance so we can just be clear that whatever it is you publish, if you're mentioning the advisory committee, it's clear that you're serving on the advisory committee, but that is your own opinion, and that there's not a prejudgment before any vote by the working group or by the parent committee. So those are just some things we've paid attention to over the years. And if you have any further questions on this or think about things later, legal issues, feel free to contact Elaine, and then, she'll get in touch with me and we'll try to answer your questions. Does anyone have a question now? Yes.
Hello? Okay.
Right.
Almost
this is
here.
Andrew speaking.
Am I here? Can you hear me? Yes, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yeah, Lisa,
Oh,
go ahead. Go ahead, Lisa. Thanks. Do you have your hand up to get your mic on?
Hello? Hello? Yeah. Hello? Is it on yet?
You're on.
I can't hear it. Okay. Well, I know what I'm going to say, so I don't have to hear it. My question was, if we choose to have the working groups, be closed and private, but we need information from experts that are not serving on the committee, how do we do that?
Good question. I forgot to mention that. That's really important. You are welcome to invite in to the working group, or even here to the full committee if it came to that, someone, any expert or other interest group that you wanted to give a presentation and to answer your questions so that you can engage with them for however long it is that it takes for you to get the information. The only difference is that when they're done with their presentation and you've gotten all your questions out, they would not stay for the rest of the meeting. They would just need to understand they, should be leaving because it would be a closed meeting. And also I wanted to mention it is okay for let's say that you have a working group with 10 people, but 5 or 6 other people who were here wanted to attend. It's okay to attend and watch. It's just that the people who are not on the working group, who are members, just have to watch because we don't want to, because they're not members of the working group, but also we don't want to have an inadvertent quorum. We don't want 20 people to start debating in the working group, and then that might be a majority of the people here. So you don't want to convert it into a full committee meeting. But as long as just the people who are members of the working group participate, that should be fine. Oh, and one other thing. If you do have alternates, whether it's for the full group or for the working group, the group that you represent still just gets one vote. So it's not both the member and the alternate voting, it's just one vote for that entity. Any other questions?
Thank you. This is Andrew speaking. I want to recognize Brenda Kelly Fry first, and then we'll move forward, and then Mark.
Okay, this is Brenda. I have 2 questions. What constitutes a quorum? Is it a certain percentage of the membership?
Yes, it would be a certain percentage. Typically, committees are free to, the designated federal officer is free to modify this from group to group, but typically it would be, a majority of the members of the working group or a majority of the members of the full committee.
Okay. And the second one is, if the working group proposes, let's just say, a survey, is the working group permitted to develop a survey and propose it to the full committee to get the ball rolling?
You could propose it. The problem is, and then you could propose it and you could propose it to the full group. The problem is that and then the group could make a recommendation to the full commission to do that. It's really a logistical consideration. It would take, there's a lot of lag time because you have to get permission from OMB and you have to go through the Paperwork Reduction Act, whatever process, to be able to get approval to do the survey. This is not FCC paperwork. This is just a congressional statute. So there would be a lag time. So the answer is yes, you can propose it as a long-term project for the FCC. That would be fine if the FCC wants to do it. But I wouldn't wait on the results of that survey to get the work of this group accomplished because it can take a couple months to get. So first you have to bring it forward to your group, then your group would need to vote it, and then it can take a couple months more for us to get OMB approval to move forward. So it can be done, but I wouldn't wait on your recommendations to get that information.
Thank you.
This is Andrew speaking. Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions. I'd like to recognize Mark Reichert and then Susan Mazrui, who had her hand up earlier as well. I think that we may be able to add in Kari. So that will be 3 more questions before we move forward. So Mark, please.
Thanks. I've got any number of questions and look forward, Elaine, to working with you on those. There are a couple that maybe the group as a whole might be interested in. So, see, I get all choked up talking about these issues. Let's say we're talking about a motherhood and apple pie issue. This is the 25th anniversary of the ADA. I'm fantasizing, making stuff up as I go here. If this committee wanted to do some sort of commendatory thing, weighing in on behalf of this committee, whatever in connection with that, is it necessary to do all statements or all resolutions, if you will, through subcommittees? In other words, putting it a different way, nothing shall be discussed at this committee unless by way of recommendations that we want this group to adopt that do not come through subcommittees? Or can we bring things directly here?
That's really up to the different committees have different procedures on that. So that's really up to your designated federal officer.
Yep.
So if you come up with an idea that you think is not controversial, that everyone would think is a great idea, it's not very complicated, you can talk to Elaine and say, I'd like this to be added to the next agenda, and you would just get it on the agenda.
And thank you. And my related question to that is, are these various policies we're talking about now embodied somewhere in written bylaws, a document that can be shared with this group so that we're all on the same literal page?
No, there are no formal, under the Advisory Committee Act, there are no formal bylaws. It's consciously flexible. It is intended to be a flexible mechanism. So, for your question, for example, if you wanted to run your idea through a subcommittee and have it come up that way, that's fine. Or if you came up with an idea after the subcommittees had met but before the agenda had been announced for the full meeting, you could go to Elaine and say, I just thought of this. Can we add this to the agenda?
Very good.
This is Andrew. I recognize Susan Mazrui and then Carrie Cook.
Hi, this is Susan Mazrui. One question is that, do we need to make a recommendation in one meeting and vote on it at the next, or can we do it at the same meeting?
Are you talking about the subcommittee,
yes.
Or you can vote on it right then if if you feel there's been enough debate and you have all the information?
Okay, so the
again, that's totally flexible.
Can then bring it to the full committee and it can be voted on that same day? Or is it the next meeting at the full committee?
It would need to be the next meeting because it would need to be put on the agenda because we're required to cover everything that will come up at the meeting in the public notices.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Andrew. I'm recognizing Carrie Cook now, please.
More of a request for clarification. You mentioned that.
Sorry, your microphone's not on. We need you to.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay.
How's that?
Mm-hmm.
I can hear myself, so I'm gonna trust you guys. This is more of a request for clarification. You mentioned earlier that committees and subcommittees, any paperwork that we submit will not be confidential.
I'm sorry.
Public?
Committees and subcommittees. What about confidential?
Any paperwork will not be confidential because it's public record, correct?
Right.
And then you mentioned working groups are more informal so that we could have some privacy there. Could you clarify for me the difference?
Yes.
Between working groups and subcommittees?
Working groups and subcommittees are the same. anything that's under the, people use different names for it, but it's the same thing. So, and any documents that do go and are handed out and retained by the subcommittee members we need to make a copy of those. We would retain them, and they would be public unless there is a concern about confidentiality. Does that answer the question?
Wonderful, thank you.
Sure.
This is Andrew speaking. Great. Thank you, Paula. And if any of our members have further questions or if something occurs to you later, you can always reach out to Elaine or myself, and we can ask Paula for her assistance and expertise. Thank you, Paula.
Thanks very much for your time.
Great. And now I will appreciate that. And now I will turn it over to Elaine to give us an overview of the DAC. Elaine?
Thanks so much. And thank you, Paula, again. That was great. The DAC, our Disability Advisory Committee, is a federal advisory committee, and I know a lot of you in the room have been on other federal advisory committees, but some of you haven't been. Federal advisory committees have been around for a really long time. Washington was the first president to have an advisory committee for the Whiskey Rebellion, so they've been around for a long time. But at the end of the last century, it became clear that they'd been around so long that there were some advisory committees that had been intact for 100 years. They were not limited in time. A lot of them weren't holding their meetings in public, and they weren't balanced so that they might be all industry or all consumers, and they weren't fair. So the Congress wrote a law called the Federal Advisory Committee Act, or FACA, F-A-C-A, and that is the law that establishes the rules by which we govern these meetings, and which Paula so aptly described to you. One of the requirements of FACA is that there be a designated federal officer. That means a federal employee who is a liaison between the advisory committee and the agency. So that's my role. I'm the DFO, the designated federal officer, serving both you, the advisory committee, and the Federal Communications Commission. I'm responsible for ensuring that all the provisions of FACA are met and to work with the FCC officials to ensure that the proper ethics regulations, because it's not just FACA we have to comply with, it's some ethics laws as well, are also satisfied. And I think Paula described most of those ethics rules real well. I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that our full committee meetings, with very small exceptions, are public. We have to notice these meetings well in advance so the public can attend or watch online. We keep meeting minutes. We have a real nice committee website. It's www.fcc.gov/disability-advisory-committee. Well, that's a real long address, but you know what I do? I go into Google and I type FCC space DAC, and it comes up. so that's a good way to get to it. We'll keep. Already, we have a lot of the supporting documents for the DAC on that website in Word and PDF format. We have the charter. We have lists of each subcommittee, all of the members of each subcommittee. As of last week, there's been substantial shifts, so I have to update those later in the week. But also, you should review the charter. That's it talks about our mission and is a good document for all of you to have some cognition of. The minutes for this meeting will be posted on that site. And we will keep a record of all of the minutes for all of the meetings, so it'll be a historic site as well over the next 2 years. So that's pretty much what I wanted to tell you about my role. Now, you're fortunate because you also have a liaison in that you have the chair, the facilitator and the co-facilitators of your subcommittees who are FCC employees. So your subcommittee facilitator is certainly someone you should go to if you have subcommittee-specific questions, but the more general questions or any questions at all can be sent to me. I have my own personal email address here, elaine.gardner@fcc.gov, but also you can get to me through dac@fcc.gov. That's my DAC email address. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Karen. I just wanted to mention also a couple of things. A couple of you asked about the subcommittees. We're going to talk about that momentarily. But I wanted to mention, you saw the parade of people come up for the subcommittees. And you'll understand that the reason that we added so many individuals to the subcommittees was because we had so many incredibly qualified people, and that those of you who are on subcommittees, your role is just as important as anybody on the full committee. You're going to be doing the meat of the work. I also wanted to mention that a lot of you used acronyms, and while many of the people around the table know what these are and these abbreviations and acronyms for subcommittees and other purposes, several of you are fortunately not from the D.C. area and may not know what these mean. So don't hesitate to come over to us and ask. You don't feel like, oh, I should know that. You're coming here with a clean slate, for those of you who are not familiar with the Washington, D.C. lingo, and we would be happy to share with you what they mean. A couple of them that I heard that were not explained was the EITaaC, E-I-T-A-A-C, which was a committee put together by the Access Board to develop regulations for Section 508, which requires federal agencies to have accessible electronic and information technology. There was the TAC mentioned. That was a committee, an advisory committee created for ensuring that telecommunications equipment and services are accessible to people with disabilities. That was put together also, I think, by the Access Board, and then there were a few others. But I also wanted to mention that so many of you have been on former committees, and the ones that were here, the VPAC, the Video Programming one, and the Emergency Access Committee, you already know how incredibly valuable your product was, and hopefully you'll remember that as a model. We took what you gave us and turned it into law. What you gave us on the Emergency Committee became text to 911 requirements. What you gave us on the Video Programming Committee became IP captioning rules, rules for video description, and rules for accessible user interfaces on video devices. We could not have even begun to turn around the rules that we did if we didn't have your feedback from those committees. I also wanted to mention that somebody mentioned you're not sure how we structured the subcommittees, with lots of difficulty. That's the bottom line. There is tremendous overlap. Today we have, as Elaine will describe, we have concurrent meetings, but in the future they don't necessarily have to be concurrent. I'm going to stop right here because Commissioner Riley is entering the room, and we'd like for him to say a few words. The Commissioner has been very, very supportive of disability issues, and we'd love to have you come up, Commissioner, and say a few words to the group. What? Yeah, at the podium. You want to come over here? Sure. If that's not on, we have this. Okay.
All right, good works. Sorry, I was watching a congressional hearing. Caught my attention as mentioned my name, so apologize for being a couple minutes late. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to appear before the inaugural meeting of the Disability Advisory Committee. Some of you are very familiar with the Commission, given your past experiences on advisory committees. For others, we welcome you and look forward to your participation. Let me start by thanking you for your service and future advice. I realize that many of you have regular work obligations and responsibilities. To the extent that your work on the Commission's DAC takes you away from private time with your families, please accept my apologies in advance. I realize that part of the first meeting you'll spend some time conducting a number of organizational functions, such as dividing up into subcommittees. Do note your work will pick up over time and become more challenging and complex. Technology, if used properly, can be an amazing equalizer in today's society. The Internet, combined with market forces driving down price points on a daily basis, expands the opportunities for all Americans. We no longer live in a world where access to information is limited to a select few. But we must also realize how we got to where we are today. The digital economy and the current state of internet communications exist because of cooperation and technological advancement rather than government mandates and regulatory fiats. As you conduct your work, I ask that you keep a couple things in mind. First, the issues before you cannot be examined in a vacuum. They must be reviewed within the context of the entire communication sphere. That means there will be a need for a significant factor of reasonability in any of your recommendations. You are obligated to consider the costs of any recommendations on those ultimately paying, the American consumer. Second, there are limits to what can be expected out of technology in a given time period. While it may seem as though software providers, equipment manufacturers, video providers, or others should be able to deliver a specific function to improve disability communications, do the necessary homework to find out the facts, including the time needed to research, development, and marketing, and the relative costs. Third, I expect this advisory committee to have an in-depth knowledge of off-the-shelf technologies that can fulfill certain functionality. Understand the capabilities and current use of the Internet and a number of functions that have improved communications for all Americans, including those used by the disabled community, such as email, texting, and video conferencing. Learn the current usage patterns and trends, especially among today's youth. For instance, voice minutes are dropping throughout the communications industry as consumers switch to other modes. If existing technology is working or can be a solution, be extremely cautious in embracing proprietary systems. Fourth, understand the Commission's limitations on jurisdiction. We have limited authority over the Internet and the applications layer. In fact, I will be hesitant to approve any recommendation that seeks to involve the Commission in the highly competitive applications marketplace. But that doesn't mean to dismiss the possibility of apps. Just the opposite. Realize that the best solutions for improving communications for the disabled may not come from mainstream companies, but from an app designed by an unknown. Lastly, do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. For instance, I had the opportunity to meet Stevie Wonder here at the Commission and to hear him speak at a panel at the Consumer Electronics Show earlier this year. Few people could be a better ambassador for disabled issues and communications technology. In our meeting, he said something I wasn't expecting. He was impressed with the quality of voice recognition and speech production software. But many people today still mock these technologies. The lesson I took was never to underestimate the benefits of incremental improvements to users. Avoid any assumptions that technology must function a certain way or look a particular way. Many thanks for your attention. I look forward to reading your work in the months ahead and wish you best in your work. So thank you so very much.
Okay, this is Andrew speaking. It was wonderful for us to have Commissioner O'Reilly here this morning. We appreciate all of his support. Briefly, I'd like to introduce our subcommittees, and I would like to ask those of you who are the subcommittee chairs to be prepared to raise your hand. That way, those who are serving on those subcommittees can recognize you. I will be introducing you by name. The Relay and Equipment Distribution Subcommittee, we have two co-chairs, Brenda Kelly Fry. If you raise your hand, thank you, Brenda. And the co-chair is Angela Officer. Angela Officer could not be here today. The FCC facilitator for that subcommittee is Caitlin Vogus. Caitlin, are you here? Caitlin in the back, the center back here. The next subcommittee, Communications, also has two co-chairs, Mark Reichert. Mark, if you'd raise your hand, please. Thank you. And Susan Mazrui. Susan, thank you. And the FCC facilitator for that subcommittee is Rosaline Crawford. Third subcommittee, Video Programming. This committee has also two co-chairs, Thomas Wadkowski. Tom? Excellent. and Lisa Hamlin. Your FCC facilitator is Susie Rosen-Singleton to my left. Fourth subcommittee is Emergency Communications, and your two co-chairs for that subcommittee are Richard Ray and Tony Dunn. If you'd please raise your hand. Great. Thank you. And the FCC facilitator for that subcommittee is Cheryl King. Cheryl, if you'd raise your hand to my right. Great. After our lunch break, we will be engaging in our subcommittee meetings. We have a few announcements to make first of all. For lunch, there are those who had some special dietary orders. Please see FCC staff to get your lunches. We will have a photo at, I think, 11:45. We'll see what happens with that. I'm not certain.
She's here.
Oh, she is here. Okay. Excellent. So should we, has the photo already happened, or I'm not certain what are the arrangements that we're making for the photo? I think we're trying to figure out who is taking the picture. This is Andrew speaking. We are going to be having boxed lunches, and we have boxed lunches for our committee members, our subcommittee members, our support providers, and FCC staff who are in attendance. Feel free to eat in the commission meeting room here or in your subcommittee meeting room. There is also a room designated for lunch. For those of you who want to know what room that is, that's TWA 402. TWA 442 are your subcommittee meeting rooms, and then there is this room, the commission meeting room. Anything else we need to do or discuss before we break? This is Andrew. Could I ask, and Susie, if you know, I'm going to ask an FCC staffer to explain exactly where the room is. I'm not familiar. This is Susie. TW402 and TW4A442 are along the same hallway out the back of the room towards the right, as if you're heading towards the restrooms. It is on this floor. For the lunchroom, do we have the person here who's organizing lunch? Rosaline? I'm not sure what Rosaline's saying. For the lunch break, we also have several rooms that are you going to be explaining that, Elaine, the lunch break rooms? Or
everybody will go and pick up their lunch in the a room right down the hall on the right, and there's signage. That's where the boxed lunches are. Everybody will have a boxed lunch. As Andrew mentioned, anybody who emailed and requested a special lunch, ask one of the individuals there for your special lunch. Then you can either sit in that room and with your lunch. You can go to your subcommittee room with your lunch. Or there's a third breakout room around the corner, and you'll be led to that room, and that's another room where you can take your lunch. I wanted to explain the photograph. We would like everyone to come up to the dais, both committee members and subcommittee members, and there's a ramp on the left side of the stage as you face the stage, and so we can have a big group picture. Okay? And then we all get to eat our lunch. Thanks a whole lot.
Can we let one of the blind people take the picture?
But we have to decide who's going to do what. I think it's
now 3:45, so I'm asking everyone to please take their seats, and we can get moving forward with our agenda.
Sooner as opposed to later. I would love it. Thank you.
There are some white pretzels, white chocolate pretzels going around. Please eat them.
Or else you will.
Yes, I don't want to take them home. Please. Should have dyed them green.
We have everyone here?
I think you should probably start anyway.
Yeah.
Mark, they're in front of you.
Oh my God.
To the right.
Here.
This is Andrew speaking. Welcome back to the DAC.
Thank you.
We will be getting started with our 4 subcommittees giving a summary of their 3 priorities. If we could keep it in 5 to 10 minutes, that would be excellent. I am following us along the lines of our agenda for our subcommittees, so I will ask for them to report in the order already documented. First, we'll ask for Relay and Equipment Distribution Subcommittee with Brenda. If that's all right, we can start there.
Hello. Hi, this is Brenda, and I'm pleased to report back that our subcommittee had the opportunity late last week to start thinking and brainstorming about the issues that were concerning us, and we started communicating via email. So we had a jump start, which was, I think, very beneficial to our group. So we came up with 3 items. We had several items, and we kind of whittled them down to 3. And one is equipment availability and training. There's, especially with the deaf-blind equipment, and I'm sure it pertains to other kinds of equipment is being given out to individuals that may not qualify financially for free equipment, but people are getting their equipment maybe on their own and not knowing how to use the equipment. That includes elderly people who may need some training on how to use apps. Deaf-blind individuals getting deaf-blind equipment on their own, purchasing their own and not knowing how to use it, and therefore it's a waste of money. The other issue was technology. Was the broad umbrella category. And within that, we are going to discuss interoperability and off-the-shelf technology, the reliability of that equipment, and the quality of the technology of the relay equipment. We also decided that we were going to break into subgroups to discuss these items because we felt like we could accomplish much more that way. So Angie Officer and I will be discussing how we are going to go about doing that and how we are going to be able to participate in those meetings between DAC meetings. And then the other issue we talked about was quality standards for service, including research efforts and so forth, and quality of the service that's being provided and what impacts that quality and how we can improve the quality, what we need to do to improve the service. And that's it.
This is Andrew speaking. Thank you very much, Brenda, for that report. I would like to now ask to get a report from the Communications Subcommittee, Mark Reichert and Susan Mazrui, if one of you would like to take the lead in reporting out there.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. And thanks, Brenda, for being so concise that you're going to show me up. with your report. Our communications committee, I think, had a really robust conversation. One of our challenges, I think, is that perhaps, unlike some of the other subcommittees, our work is even a bit more, what's a good appropriate word? Imaginative, forward-thinking, thinking outside the box. I think we're all going to be doing that, but I think in our committee, subcommittee, we were particularly struggling with sort of the where do we go from here, not dreaming too big dreams, but dreaming big and looking at the CBAA and other laws as sort of foundational floors. Where do we go from here? Somebody on our committee said, well, couldn't we have as one of our 3 issues be that the FCC, we should recommend that the FCC exercise greater regulatory authority over communications technologies beyond those in the CBAA, to which there was an awful lot of smiles and chuckles, some nodding of heads and other rueful smiles, and we said, sounds like a great topic for future discussion, and I'm sure we will. But the overarching sort of 3 areas that we ended up talking about, we didn't even call them buckets. They were so large we called them barrels. And maybe barrels of whiskey is an appropriate thing to talk about on a St. Patrick's Day. I don't know. Hopefully we won't drown in these barrels. It's possible that we will, but we'll do our best. So what are they? The first one has to do with getting a better handle on, quite frankly, what do we know about consumers with disabilities? It may surprise you, or perhaps it will not. My colleagues in the blindness and vision impairment world around the table, this is old news to them. We don't know in this country how many people are legally blind. We don't really have a good sense of the people who say that they experience vision loss, exactly what that means. I mean, I think we know it in general principle, but we really don't. And when you start to talk about other groups of folks with disabilities, what their specific demographic characteristics are, socioeconomic issues, yep, we have some fairly good numbers about that. But then when you start asking even more questions about what their abilities are vis-a-vis technology, what they're in fact using, what their needs are, these are a lot of areas for which we don't have enough information. And really, we need to invite the agencies like the FCC, but certainly perhaps others throughout the federal government to collect information, or to invite all of us to perhaps work together in partnership to collect information and do the appropriate work and the research that's needed to have a much better understanding, not only about the characteristics of the population, but frankly where the gaps are in knowledge and gaps are in our own knowledge about what folks need. So if we're going to tackle this issue, admittedly a very large issue of communications accessibility, we need to start with a better understanding of who the people are that we're serving. And so what might some of those things look like? Some of our colleagues around the table talked about perhaps working with the Census Bureau, perhaps doing other things where we're working with industry. I think you get the idea. The point being is this will be a major topic of discussion in our committee moving forward. Second area has to do, it's related, has to do with our connection. I forget precisely what our colleague from the FCC, Rosaline, came up. She came up with the slogan of the day. I think it was essentially something like cross-agency fertilization, something like that. Leadership. That, for those of you who couldn't hear, that was a loud shout by Rosaline Crawford. Cross-agency leadership, and really what this is about has to do with the whole notion of, building those connections. It's that convergence issue we talked about in terms of policy. So if we are going to make improvements in communications technologies, how do we make sure that other agencies, for example, when the federal government are doing what they need to do, and the commission perhaps needs to be encouraged to outreach to other federal agencies. So it's really a question of getting a handle on who is doing what work across the government and perhaps formulating recommendations to spur that along or further strengthen those bridges that have been built. And the third area is a little bit harder to get a hold of, but I'll start this off, and then I know I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Susan. The third area really has to do with emerging technologies, interoperability, and again, convergence of technology. And we've talked about these throughout the day, really. But so when you look at technologies like HD voice, If you look at technologies like real-time text, if you look at those kinds of issues and you say, okay, what are some of the barriers to moving forward with implementing these technologies? They're really policy barriers, potentially. Some of them we're starting to break down. So in the real-time text area, for example, the U.S. Access Board has begun to move regulatorily to recognize it and give full federal recognition to the value of that technology. But what do we need to do to make sure that those kinds of quote-unquote emerging technologies have the structures in place to support them? So that will be certainly an area we want to touch on. With that, let me shut up, and Susan, over to you.
Came out when we were talking was really that we know that there's a lot we don't know, not just as a committee, but as a society around accessibility. And we know that technology provides a lot of opportunities. But before we make recommendations to the FCC about how we can engage better people with disabilities in the processes, get them more engaged, more likely to adopt the technologies that are out there, to understand the benefits. We really needed to understand more of what the FCC is currently doing today, because we came up with a few ideas in the subcommittee meeting only to hear that maybe they're already being done. So what we'd like to request is at the next meeting to put on the June agenda to have a report back from the FCC about what they're doing in terms of outreach. Everything from the accessibility of their website to use of social media to incorporation of disability-related themes within outreach to other groups, or specifically targeted outreach to the disability community around Section 255 CVAA and just accessibility in general. And also to understand better what's being done to look at emerging technologies and the potential barriers that may be presented, or the potential opportunities that could be presented around these things. So we would really, as a subcommittee, like to suggest to the full committee that that's included on our next agenda.
Andrew, this is Mark. Let me just add a footnote to be careful for our colleagues who are in the subcommittee with us. The motion that Susan is making is Susan's and mine alone. We did not have time to discuss this, but I think based on the conversation we had this afternoon, I know this is a particular interest to my colleague co-chair, and I expect it is to others on our subcommittee. So whether it's a motion, whether it's a friendly request, however you want to proceed, sir, but it would be great if at our next full DAC meeting in June that if commission staff might provide the DAC with sort of a general sort of baseline assessment of what the commission has done and is doing with respect to that community outreach that Susan was just talking about.
And I think that there's a common thread with other subgroups as well, so there might be additional information they'd like to receive. But we really don't want to suggest that the commission do things, A, that they can't do, or B, that they're already doing. We want to focus the recommendations so they're actionable and can be done expeditiously.
So this is Karen. What I recommend is that we finish the other subcommittee reports. Right. And if there's time, maybe you can make a motion. If there's not time, you're actually, I believe, are allowed to do a motion online and get votes online as well. Because you may want to formulate the motion a little bit more, but you might have time to be able to do it today as well. But why don't we proceed with the subcommittee reports, and then we can come back to it.
This is Andrew speaking. Thank you, Susan and Mark, for that report. Now we'd like to move on to our third subcommittee. This is our video programming subcommittee report from Thomas Lodkowski and Lisa Hamlin.
Thank you, Andrew. My name is Tom Lodkowski, and last Friday we put out an email to the subcommittee members asking them to email us their priorities. And which many did right away. Email box was burning up over the weekend, as you might imagine. And we got more than 50, 60 different priorities, but they're largely falling in three buckets that we have now created and can adjust as we move forward through the 2 years. The initial three buckets are closed captioning, video description, and education and awareness. So things under closed captioning might be promoting the importance of maintaining caption and video description files as content is moved from its original delivery platform, to other platforms. So, the traditional one that we're all familiar with would be TV to online, but even further than that, DVD and other platforms as well. Another area of the captions would be to promote for the recommendation and find ways for the FCC and others to promote sharing of caption files between program owners and distributors. There's a lot of work there that needs to be done to make that process of moving from traditional TV to the IP delivery more efficient. Let's see. In the video description, and there's many others. The areas of captioning range from best practices to quality to more training and finding, increasing the pool of qualified captioners, particularly in the area of real-time captioning, is an area where that comes in addition to some technical issues as well. The second bucket, video description, really focused on several different areas. One, finding a more permanent home for the delivery of video description in the broadcast and cable realm. Today, as many of you know, description audio competes and is typically delivered over the Spanish audio track. And so that presents a lot of challenges, particularly when folks move the description to another audio track because there's a Spanish language broadcast that they also want to make available. So finding a more permanent home for that. Central data, improving the accuracy and availability of metadata about programs that are described. So today we have primary data collectors like Rovi and Tribune Media and some other services that do make the fact that they do have the data that a program is described, but those of us who have worked with that data are concerned that it may not always be as accurate as we'd like it to be or as it needs to be. So doing some work there. A central location for description listings, program listings of programs that are available with description, and tagging scripts, the actual descriptive scripts themselves, so that would help promote the repurposing of described content to online and other media. The third group is what we're calling right now education and awareness. And in there, we talk about best practices, trying to think of some other items, exchange of information between manufacturers, consumers, and industry. And let's see, anything else? Right, so encouraging the involvement of people with disabilities in the development of products and services. That group still needs to do more work to obviously fit in some of the other 50 some odd priorities that came in. The goal is that we formed 3 working groups, one for each category. Certainly, several members of the subcommittee have signed up for multiple groups, and so now we're working through getting those meetings scheduled in the next coming couple of weeks here, facilitating some concerns around online or remote participation. We'll work through all of that, and then getting into a regular cadence of monthly subcommittee meetings. But the working groups now will take the list of priorities for each bucket and try to reprioritize so that we can look at some short-term, moderate, and longer-term projects and recommendations that may result from those activities. Lisa Hamlin, anything that I may have missed?
This is Lisa Hamlin. We talked a little bit, that was great, actually. It summarized everything. I just wanted to bring this up just so everybody is aware that we were talking a little bit about also the logistics of setting up conference calls and how that's more challenging for groups with multiple ways of accessing telecommunication. So we're leaving that to the FCC to help us out and set up our groups and our working groups. And I want to thank Susie for doing that, and whoever else at the FCC is going to help us set up those committees, because I think those working groups are going to be where we're really getting our subgroups, or where really we're getting a lot of our work done.
This is Andrew speaking. Thank you to both Thomas and Lisa for your subcommittee report. And last, we'll move forward to the report from our Emergency Communications Subcommittee. This was chaired by Richard Ray and Tony Dunn.
Thank you, Andrew. There does seem to be a common thread amongst all the groups, and that is the buzzword, I think, today is identifying gaps. So our group also talked about this. We are comparatively a smaller group than some of the other committees, but we are mighty, and we have a lot of distinguished members on the committee. So we actually came up with some areas that we needed to look at. We need to identify gaps where they exist in certain areas. One is NG 911, and within NG 911, we identified a couple of or three different areas. But to identify the gaps, we need to find out what's already been recommended, what's already in the works or is being done, currently being done. Have there been any updates to standards that we need to understand? And this includes technology as well as programs and services. And the three areas under the NG 911 topic were interoperability, and specifically video was mentioned, but it also includes other technologies. We are also looking at N11 numbers, because those numbers like 211, 311, and 511 are not currently accessible to people with different communication needs. So that's another area. MCLS is Media Communication Line Services. We wanted to further this goal. This was a recommendation that came out of the EAAC recently, and we did find out that the FCC has created a task force on optimal PSAP architecture that may be looking at this particular topic as well. And there may be another committee that's also looking at using this recommendation that came out of the EAAC as a beginning point for furthering this goal. But we need to identify all of the gaps that may exist so that we can further identify and specify what our goals are going to be with related to these topics. There's also an area with rulemaking that we wanted to look at. We understand that the FCC is also in the process of rulemaking on the EAS language in planning and education. So we understand that there may be an accessibility component to that, so we need to further investigate this. And there was a suggestion that we might want to, as a committee, provide comment to that rulemaking process. So that is what we have right now. We are going to be meeting monthly and finding SMEs that can help us identify some of these gaps and understand, what we need to be doing as a committee for this DAC. I would ask anybody on the committee, if I've missed anything, if you would please share. This is Richard. I think you covered it all.
This is Andrew speaking. Great. Thank you, Tony. And thank you to all of the subcommittees for your reports. We have about 20 minutes before our public participation period. I'd like to talk about one of the issues that several people approached me inquiring of, those who wanted to join other subcommittees to which they weren't assigned or feel that they may want to change their subcommittee assignments. Elaine and myself are happy to entertain your requests, so please feel free to email us subsequent to today's meeting and inquire as to which subcommittees you would like to be on. We have to carefully consider the number of people on each subcommittee, as well as consider the number of subcommittees each person is assigned to. So feel free, if you have a concern, to contact us. And I'm happy to now open the floor for Elaine and Karen if you have any other comments you'd like to add.
I just want to piggyback on what Andrew just said about the subcommittees. As Lisa mentioned before, they're large. I mean, they used to be small as part of the CAC, and now they're enormous. So just be aware that there was a lot of thought that went into placing people into the different subcommittees based on your expertise, based on your preferences, and we can definitely switch some people around if possible, but we don't want them to become too unwieldy if they're not that already. The other thing is that a couple of entities have, most of you have one alternate, and that's fine, and if you want your alternate to go to a different subcommittee, that's generally okay. Again, we would want to know about it. And there's, I think, one or two entities that have two alternates. It's okay to have two alternates generally, but at any one meeting, at any one time, we would like to limit it to one principal and one alternate. Because if we don't, then what's going to happen is that the resource-rich entities would be able to spread out more than the resource-poor entities. So we would like for, if you have two alternates, just make sure that you only have two present at any one time.
And this is Elaine. I just want to add, and only one person really should be participating in the meeting. I mean, whether it's an alternate or a principal, that's fine. But for the same reasons that Karen just mentioned, we really don't want more than one principal participating in any given subcommittee meeting. Now, if you want to have your alternate do all the work afterwards, that's fine.
Right. You want to move on? You want to come back to the motion? No. You want, if you like, we can move back to the motion from the Communications Committee. We have about 15 minutes if you'd like to, if you have a motion crafted. If you don't feel like you do, then again, you can do that online. Go ahead, Susan.
I think we can move to have the FCC do a presentation at the next DAC meeting discussing the outreach efforts that are currently underway around access for people with disabilities, the efforts that are being made to communicate externally and internally about accessibility, and also what's being done, everything from website to outreach in terms of ensuring that the processes are including people with disabilities, are accessible to people with disabilities, and highlighting, if we can, the efforts that are being done to engage people with disabilities. Just aside, I think that there's a lot being done within the FCC. If you go to meetings and other agencies, you don't see the level of accessibility that you'd see here today, where it's online and you have interpreters and you have everything available. And so part of what we're trying to do is to understand the good work that's being done, so we're able to look at how we make our recommendations across agencies in terms of leadership, and also to make sure that our recommendations, regardless of the committees we're involved in, are effective. They're not saying to do something you're already doing, or saying to do something that you've tried and has failed. So I think if we can have that for outreach, that would be helpful for us for baseline, and we thought it would be helpful for the whole committee.
This is Andrew speaking. I want to know if you have a specific formal motion that you would like to introduce, or if you'd like to simply ask the FCC if they'd be willing to make that presentation at our next meeting without the need to have a formal motion.
Yeah. And this is Susan. I'm not clear procedurally whether we need to go to a motion or if it's just a suggestion. I know earlier the agenda is crafted in advance and announced, and so whatever way would be available to get us the information as quickly as possible and enable us to make better recommendations. So if you think we need to make a motion,
well,
we can do that.
I think that we can, let's put it this way, unless there are any objections to this, and since you're asking the FCC to do work, I can't imagine, well, maybe you do have objections, but it's interesting you create a committee to do work and then they give you work.
Poor Rosalind.
But, I mean, I think that we can report back to the extent that we can. I don't think that that should be problematic. Okay. So unless others feel the need for a motion, I think that we could say that we can provide you with some information about what we've done.
And if there are people who feel that this is unnecessary, I mean, I certainly don't want to force this issue down your throat, but if you think it'd be helpful, that would be good.
This is Andrew speaking. I think it is great to have the FCC do a presentation here. I don't think that we need a motion, but Greg has his hand up, so I'd like to give the floor to Greg. Thank you, Andrew. This is Greg. Yes, I do agree. I think it's a wonderful idea for the FCC to give a status report on work that has already been done in terms of rulemaking, outreach, among other things. I have noticed that during subcommittee meetings, discussion has been raised on a number of issues which I realize have already been covered in some of our work. So I do think that that is a job for our facilitators in each of those subcommittee meetings, is to stay close to that work and keep those subcommittees informed about what has already been done and is going on here at the FCC throughout the process of your subcommittee meetings, to make sure that you are in the know on the work that we have been doing, and to keep subcommittees focused on things that we could do and things that subcommittees can make some meaningful progress on. This is Andrew speaking. Thank you. I will make sure that that is something included on our agenda for our next meeting. Thank you, Susan.
I just want to add one more thing. This is Karen. A lot of what you're asking is actually contained in the 2 biennial reports that we've put together for the CVAA. So we probably won't spend a lot of time on it, because I know that there's a lot of need for the time that you have here is very precious. For one thing, you have full accommodations, so we want to make sure that it's used wisely. I guess one of the things that I would like to know from your group is where you think the gaps are. I mean, clearly, we've, just as a quick summary, we've done extensive outreach. We've participated in local, national, and international conferences. We've put together consumer guides. Well, we can go into this with you. But clearly, what I heard from your subgroup, your subcommittee, is that there are some gaps. So to the extent, even assuming we can tell you what we've done, if you can help identify those gaps and produce recommendations for how you think those gaps can be filled, whether it's externally or internally at the FCC, that would really be helpful to us.
And this is Susan. I think that really is our intent, because we don't want to, if you've already done something and we still see gaps, which we do at this point, we know that there's technology that people are not using today that would make their lives much better in a range of things, from work to school to community engagement. And so if we can see what you've done, there may be recommendations that go beyond what the FCC can do. Maybe it's engagement of industry, maybe it's engagement of consumer organizations. But certainly we don't want to tell you to do something you've already done.
Okay, thank you.
This is Andrew. I'd like to recognize Matt Gerst.
Well, this is Matt Gerst at CTI. I was just going to, because I'm on the communications subcommittee, echo exactly what Susan was saying, which is a lot of the committees, at least the 2 that I'm on, the emergency communications subcommittee, I think it would help to give everybody sort of a baseline understanding of what the FCC has done, which has been a lot over the last, at least the last 2 years, whether it's in terms of outreach, rulemakings, whatever it is, because some of the issues that at least I heard raised are things that the FCC either has addressed or has, moved to consider and look at. And so that would help to sort of narrow down the scope of the issues that we do need to think about, as exactly as Susan said, by giving everybody a sort of baseline understanding of what's occurred, what you are doing, just so we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine.
This is Andrew. Are we ready to? I see Mark. Mark Reichert.
Thanks, Andrew. This is a question. It's not so much about policy at all, but it's about the work of the FCC. A number of us are very concerned about, across the board, federal agencies' compliance with Section 508 and the need to not only accommodate people with disabilities outside, but frankly employees inside the agency. To what extent is it appropriate for this Disability Advisory Committee to be looking at making recommendations vis-a-vis this Commission's responsibilities with respect to Section 508?
I think it's fine if you want to make such recommendations. It's an accessibility issue, and it crosses some of the different committees, and if you would like to make that recommendation, it would be fine.
This is Andrew speaking. I think that we're ready to move forward with public comment. Elaine would like to share something first. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Elaine Gardner. First, I want to make sure that there's no more questions from the members or discussion from the members before we move on to public comment. Second, as we're going to move into public comment, if there's any remote viewers who want to send... Okay, why don't we recognize Dr. Vogler first? There.
Thank you. Christian speaking. Thank you. I want to echo the comment that I made previously in my subcommittee meetings. I think one of the exciting things about the Disability Advisory Committee here is the convening of these 4 different entities, consumers with disabilities being one, the second being industry, the third, the research and academia folks, and then the public policy makers. I think that strong sense of interaction is an important aspect here, and I would encourage you all to think very carefully about what issue you pick to be your priority. I would encourage you to consider picking a priority that is going to reflect the needs of the dialogue of the whole group and the discourses going on in the entity as a whole. This is Andrew. Thank you, Christian. Any remaining comments from someone on the committee? Okay, back to Elaine.
This is Elaine again. I wanted to say, any of you watching remotely and who want to send in a question, and send an email to livequestions@fcc.gov, please put in the subject line DAC so that it arrives to our subcommittee. Thank you. To our committee. Thank you.
Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to share a public comment? This is Andrew. I see one person in the audience here so far. Yes, where's the second microphone? There it is. Great.
Is it on?
Yep. Do you need a mic? Yes. Okay. Should I just stand right here? Good afternoon, distinguished committee members. Congratulations to all of you on your appointment to the DAC. My name is Deanna Baino. Most know me as Dee. I'm from Sarasota, Florida. I am the most award-winning closed captioner in the United States, having medaled 22 times in national real-time and speed contests, medaling overall 9 times in the national real-time contest and winning first place in 2010. I've also placed second in the world in an international speed contest. Why am I sharing you my award winnings? It is a reflection of my skill set as a closed captioner, and I would like to share my abbreviated story of how I, as a successful captioner, am being pushed out of the closed captioning industry. Quality closed captioning is being thwarted by large cut-rate contracts with massive groups of stations, thereby decreasing the pool of qualified captioners. My husband and I own and operate AmeriCaption Inc., a closed captioning company established 25 years ago. In 1996, NBC's local affiliate WFLA in Tampa, Florida, contacted Jack Baino and asked him to come on site to caption Hurricane Bertha. He was there and on site and captioning within 2 hours. That was the very beginning of our relationship with WFLA 19 years ago. As a local captioning company, we assembled a team of local captioners covering WFLA's newscast for 18 years. Our captioners are familiar with the names of local streets, names of Indian towns like the Withlacoochee, Chassahowitzka, Thanodasasa, and Caloosahatchee. Our captioners were fairly compensated and were expected to spend 15 to 30 minutes of their time on prep and the same amount of time in reviewing their work. With AmeriCaption's 18 years of history and knowledge of the local area events, our captions were verbatim and did not use pronoun replacement of proper names. WFLA could have been a model for FCC's quality order that has recently gone into effect. Due to parent company mergers involving Media General, there was an existing cut-rate closed captioning contract in place with one of the new parent companies, and upper management decided all stations must use the other company. We were not even afforded an opportunity to negotiate after 18 years of the relationship. This new merged Media General, at my last count, now operates or services 71 television stations in 48 markets. The decline in the quality of the captioning from December 31st, 2014 to January 1st, 2015 was shocking, and it flew in the face of the FCC quality order. In addition, WFLA wanted all Today Show cut-ins captioned, just as AmeriCaption had been doing, never missing one. The new company said, why? The FCC doesn't require it. It's because they're under 5 minutes. That's also another decline in quality. Are the captioners who work for the cut-rate companies not expected to do prep or post-work because they are not paid enough, or because they just jump from station to station next on their captioning schedule and have no time? This is not allowing the real-time captioners to follow the best practices found in the FCC quality order. Many of these captioners are overworked, all the while the long-established team that had been captioning WFLA for 18 years sits and watches the inferior captions. We need to stop these large contracts with groups of stations. It's driving the highly skilled captioners out of the profession, and it's creating a noticeable decline in quality, even with the FCC quality order in effect. It's time to listen to the small local provider, the one who works in the trenches and with the consumers. And if I have another 30 seconds, can I address the formula for closed captioning accuracy?
Sure. Please
Thank
go
you.
ahead in 30 more seconds.
Regarding the formula used to determine captioning accuracy, spoken English has developed some very bad habits. The word and seems to start every sentence. You know, I mean, you know what I mean, and the word that are said over and over and are mostly a waste of the breath used to speak these words. If a captioner omits these words in order to maintain control to caption the words with meaning, the omitted superfluous words should not be counted as errors. However, if we were to allow captioning vendors to develop their own vendor, then we have to consider the old idiom, give an inch and take a mile. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Deanna, could you spell your last name?
My last name is spelled B as in boy, O-E, and as in Nancy, A-U.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is Andrew. Thank you. Any further public comments from the audience here in the CMR? Jack?
I'm Jeremy Jack. I'm the Vice President of CAG, C-A-A-G, VRS. We are actually going to change our name soon. We'll be Star VRS. It'll be easier to remember. Less confusion among people hearing and deaf both. The comment that I would like to make actually is to add to the other public comment we just had. I'm really inspired by observing today's meeting. You said this was a historic moment when you opened up the meeting, Greg, and it really is. I can imagine the amazing deliverables that are going to come out of this group that are going to benefit industry, consumers, technology purveyors, and I really applaud you, the FCC, as well as the chairs of this committee, for putting this together. I think it's going to be wonderful. And Chairman Wheeler, as well as everybody at the FCC. So to add to the concern that was mentioned about captioning, we've talked a lot about technology today, how to improve technology, how to make it accessible. And I would just like to remind everybody, and I know Brenda Kelly-Fry and Julianne Schaefer, Brian UNESCO, Eddie Martinez, I know that they will be here to remind you when I am not here, but I do want to emphasize that accessible technology involves people as well. In other words, sign language interpreters, SSP, support service providers, captionists, and caption writers. So people are part of that equation. Sometimes it involves multiple cultures, like NBDA, National Black Deaf Advocates, American Samoa. So I think we need to consider the human factor as well as we're working on these issues. Technology can be very interesting and very cool, but we always have to remember that behind all of that technology, there are humans making it work. So from an industry perspective, I would just like to remind you, I really appreciate the comments that we had this morning about celebrating the incremental steps, the incremental accomplishments. I know that we all want to go for the gold, but we've got to get there step by step. And when industry has a victory, we need to be praised, please. And, of course, that goes across the board for any group. We do need to applaud the small steps, the small victories. From a public perspective, obviously there's a wealth of talent and knowledge in this room, but you don't do your work in isolation. You don't do it in a bubble. Please don't. There are many talented, knowledgeable, skilled people out there, and most of them are known to you, of course. Please use them. And there was some cautioning about putting out a survey, which I understand there may be logistics involved, but there could be maybe informal conversations that happen. And in terms of, industry, we're not always the bad guys, and we're not always profit mongering, so that's not really where we're coming from. And we care as well. So please leverage us as you can. That's just a reminder, and thank you so much for your work.
This is Andrew speaking. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate that. Any other public comments from the room? I don't see any further hands. I believe we also have one email comment that was sent in that I'd be happy to read. This is from Mark Hill. Mark Hill says, "Hello, it is my pleasure to watch the live show of the DAC meeting here from Portland, Oregon. As president and representative of the Cerebral Palsy and Deaf Organization, I have a question for the DAC or the Relay Subcommittee. My organization has proposed to the FCC, that a special service for deaf people with mobility disabilities be established to be inclusive of the dual service relay. Will there be any discussion on that issue?" is his question. This is Andrew speaking. I am also involved with the Relay and Equipment Distribution Subcommittee, and we did discuss specifically dual relay services and the importance of outreach. I don't know if Brenda or someone else here would like to add anything in addition to that.
This is Brenda. Yes, the subcommittee will be breaking into smaller working groups, and we will be discussing different modalities, communicating with other modalities, and we will definitely take that into consideration, and I thank you for bringing it to the forefront.
This is Karen. I would actually also like to follow up on Deanne's comment before. And this actually goes to what Matt said before, which is I think that it would be helpful for us to give an overview of what our rules require next time so that everybody is on the same page. You may or may not be aware that our captioning quality rules actually just went into effect yesterday. So we are hoping to see improvements, significant improvements. The reason for the rules was precisely because we were getting concerns such as the one that you raised today. Nevertheless, we are interested in monitoring the progress and the effect of our rules, and actually one of the things that we talked about initially is doing a review after about a year or so. So we want to follow up with you. We don't want you to just make that comment and go away. We would like to pursue this with the group here, with the Video Programming Committee, and think about a way that we can articulate a process that can be carried forward to evaluate the impact of our rules, to make sure that closed captions are meeting the needs of the people that are intended to use those captions.
This is Andrew speaking. Any further public comment? I believe we have another. Sure. Please, Dr. Mitchell.
Just a quick comment. I just got an email from somebody, and they need to know the website to email because the announcement was made before 4:30, and they're looking at it, but they don't know what to send it to.
Thank you. This is Elaine Gardner. The email address to which to mail questions is livequestions, all one word, livequestions@fcc.gov. Please put in the subject line DAC. Thank you.
This is Andrew speaking. I have received another question that I will read. This is from Dana Mulvaney. And she says, it seems to me that it could be very helpful to set up a method to request input from various stakeholders about significant accessibility issues that will be helpful for the DAC to address. And some of these stakeholders are FCC staff members themselves who may have valuable suggestions for the DAC members to consider. This is Andrew speaking in response. I think that is a great suggestion, and know that we have facilitators involved in each of these subcommittees, and they're always willing to answer any questions that we may have. I'm not sure if Elaine or Karen would like to speak to this further.
Hi, this is Elaine. I think that you're right. I think that we have thought about that. We do have experts in all of these areas, people who have worked in these areas so many years, and they are working with each of the subcommittees. They're called the FCC facilitators.
This is Andrew speaking. Any further public comment? So are we to wait?
Well, I can mention one other thing. We're wait. Somebody didn't have the address, so we're waiting until they. We may get a couple more comments while we're waiting. I just want to mention that I want to thank all of you for your subcommittee proposals, and want to mention that we may be giving you some homework assignments as well. So not necessarily yet, but there are issues that we need your feedback on. We would like for you to speak first to us and tell us what you want to do first, but we may give you specific assignments. For example, we may say that we need your views on XYZ issue. So just be prepared that it's going to go both ways, because as I said, this chairman really wants this committee to produce results. So I didn't want you to be surprised if we send out a request, give us a report, or give us recommendations on something by a certain time.
This is Andrew. Have we received any further emails? Okay. I think that we'll move on. And if we do receive another email, I think that we'll be happy to answer that before the adjournment of the meeting. I am pleased to let you know that we have selected dates for the next 2 DAC meetings. The first, June 23rd, which is a Tuesday. Do we all get that? And the second, which is going to be Thursday, October 8th, which is a special date because it is about the 5th anniversary of the CVAA, unless I miss my guess, so we can celebrate together. And I'd like to close with my remarks. This has been an incredible experience for me serving as your chair for today's meeting. I'm very excited to work with each one of you. I know some of you I've worked with over the course of several years. Others are new faces to me. I am really looking forward to this opportunity to work with you as a committee, and please feel free to reach out to me anytime. My goal is to make this a positive experience for everyone involved and to make everyone feel welcomed and included. If you have any issues, any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me, and I'll do my best to make this a positive experience for you individually as well. I see there is one person in the audience, I believe, who wants to say something. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. Brian is a committee member.
This is Brian speaking. I just wanted to talk about the forthcoming meetings. If it is possible for the FCC to request to search for a nearby hotel at a group rate, that might help us out, those of us who live far away, and if we can get a government rate. The government rate is quite high, actually, rather than a group rate, so I would put that request out there that the FCC might help us in terms of further meetings down the road at which hotel might be beneficial for us to stay at.
This is Andrew speaking. Thank you, Brian, for that recommendation. We will look into that. I appreciate it. I'd like to now allow Elaine and Karen to give any closing remarks if they would like to. Elaine, Karen?
This is Elaine. I just want to thank all of you for all of your time. I know that you've taken a lot of time out of your lives. Some of you have traveled great distances, and it's just so important. And I think it's going to be a great 2 years, and I really look forward to working with each one of you. Thank you so much.
I couldn't say it any better. It's been wonderful today. It's only the start. And I actually wanted to also give Susie, who is the alternate DFO, designated federal officer, an opportunity to say something. Susie, would you like to say anything to the group?
No, actually. But I echo everyone's comments. I do. I'm really honored to be here. And we have a lot of work ahead of us. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you and your comments that you want to share. I'm really looking forward to hearing from each and every one of you, because we all have different perspectives, and they're all important. And I'm looking forward to what you have to share in all the perspectives. So feel free to contact us with any questions. And we'll keep in touch, and we'll keep this going.
So thank you again, and safe travels, everyone.